Welcome back, guys. Hi, Callista. Hey, Felice. Hey,
Hi.
Paco.
Going.
Hope everyone had a great summer.
Can't believe it's done.
That's the truth.
That fast. That fast, literally.
It'll be Halloween before we know it, too. Time flies.
Yeah, the displays are up in all the stores already. It's amazing.
Now you said it was gonna be Halloween. That was an open door to say something, but I'm gonna be nice.
Hello.
Who's that? Hello.
Benny Rosenberger.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Rosenberger. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
Oh, hey everyone. 1 second.
Hey, Ethan.
Evening, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty well. How's everybody else doing here tonight?
Good, good.
Good
A
stuff,
little bit
man.
of the midweek blues, but we're making it.
Good to see, good to hear. Hey, how are we? Good to see folks coming in. Getting stuff ready.
Are these meetings ever in person or always remote?
They were going to be in person, I believe, but they were switched to remote last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
They were going to be in person, held at the board office, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the general board meeting is still going to be in person, but the committees are remote for now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Ethan, do you want me to begin the live streaming when you can formally convene, or should I begin now?
You can begin now. It's fine. Thanks, Mia.
No.
All right, everybody here. All right, so the live stream started. That's good. Let's have 3 out of 4 people here right now, which means I think we do have quorum, which is good. But looks like we still might have some folks coming in. All right. All right, so for resident members, do we have everybody?
Good evening, Mr. Granum.
Good evening, Mia. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Mr. Granum. Good evening, Paco. Good evening, everybody. Hey.
Okay.
Good to see a lot of us here. I think we'll be able to start in a minute. All right, we can probably begin now. Everyone ready? Okay, I mean, we have quorum on the board side. We have a good number of the resident members here. I think we're pretty much able to start. All right, well, first things, let's get the welcomes going. Welcome, guys, everyone. Glad to have you all on. Oh, yeah, Tara. Coming in now. Teresa, how you doing? Welcome. But she's not even on yet. Welcome, folks, to our first September committee meeting presentation. I'm Ethan Norville, the newly appointed chair for the committee. I'm glad to see all of you. And I'm glad for us to start getting a lot of new objectives done and moving things forward. So a few introductions going. As you know, for me, I'm newly on the committee, new chair. One of the reasons why I joined the board is actually to help optimize transport, throughout CB9, and at least get some good communication channels going between the board and agencies and all those things. So I'm pretty happy to be on, and happy to help everybody here, get around more easily and have a better system for transport, across our district. I've worked across a lot of different industries in tech. I've done mostly a lot of marketing for different tech brands, as well as some product management across different tech verticals. So I've had a lot of experience across, making a difference in a lot of different industries in tech, sub-industries, and I'm happy to bring some of that expertise to CB9. If anyone wants to introduce themselves, feel free. Felice, you want to go first?
Did you say Felice, you want to go first?
Yeah, I did. If you don't, it's fine, but if you do, feel free.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a quick
My name is
introduction.
Felice Robertson. I am an active member in the community. I'll give the details. I am vice chair of Washington Avenue Block Association, WABA. I also serve as secretary for Crown Heights Community Council, which is good to see. I'm also affiliated with the 71st Precinct Community Council. I'm also involved with my union. I also, and that's with CWA 1180 AFNI. I used to be chapter chair of district council and delegating DLC. My God, I'm involved with so much that I'm losing the name. I enjoy all that I do. I enjoy helping the community. One thing that we specialize in is to make sure that the tenants have a safe place to live. The peers are done. And there's no harassment, which we are presently in court pertaining to all these things that I've mentioned. And so far, so good. So I'm really grateful for that. I enjoy being on this. At one point, I was just on transportation and other little committees, but as a member, I do enjoy doing so. And I enjoy also meeting up, with Reynoso staff and getting a few other things done in our community. These things are important for us to live a quality life in our community. And yes, I was raised here, so I pretty much know, what's what and what's needed. So you hear my involvement. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you.
All right, great to hear. Glad you're on with us. Good stuff. Always happy to hear that. Benny, what about you? Would you like to quick intro?
Sure, I'm almost a lifelong member of the Planet community. Moved from the Bronx in 1978 and lived here since. By trade, I'm a computer programmer, so I understand systems. I have a pretty good idea of traffic patterns in Crown Heights, from what I see, day-to-day life. I'm happy to bring along my understanding of through programming, understanding systems, and putting things together to bear for this committee. And I'm looking forward to solving our challenges and allowing people to move as quickly as possible and as freely as possible throughout the community.
Great stuff. Always good to have some expertise with when it comes to sharp patterns, that kind of thing. Good to see. I don't think Lorianne is here right now, but anybody else would like to have a quick intro? Also, welcome to Dante.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. Dante Arnwine here. I'm the district manager of the community board. Pleasure to meet all the new folks, to the new board members. Welcome to the board. Look forward to working with you all.
Forward to working with you too, Dante. Thanks for the warm welcome. All right, so moving forward. So I would like, first things first, before we can really be an effective committee, I want us all to be pretty clear on, what's expected of us and what we're able to do.
Ethan, are you still going through the introductions?
Yeah, we can have another one. Feel free.
Oh, I thought that you were going to call each one. No worries. So good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Granum, a longtime resident in Community Board 9 since the mid-'80s. A longtime member of this particular committee, the Transportation Committee. I don't even know how many years. This might be year 5, 6, 7. And 7. Okay. I am. My background is in transportation. I retired from New York City Transit, where I worked extensively with the subway system and virtually all the other departments. I'm also a licensed real estate agent and a homeowner and a car owner and a former avid cyclist. So I can appreciate the move to create a more equitable use of the roads for everyone. Thank you. Look forward to working with everyone.
I appreciate that. Look forward to working with you too, Jeff. Anybody else would like an intro?
I'll do a quick one. Paco Abraham, native New Yorker, but in Brooklyn last 20 years and this neighborhood about last 10. I think I've been part of this committee for, I think you might have me beat, Jeff. I think it's only been 5 or 6 years for me. But I've been, I work in television production by day, but I very much care about transportation and transportation systems and street safety at my core, and I do a lot of advocacy for it. And I now have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I'm very much tapped into the parent community in CB9, and I'm sure Dante knows half my emails to him are all about street safety and parents like myself that are very worried, just trying to get their kids to school or to the playground or whatever, and want to see us doing a lot more as a committee. So I'm excited to see new faces here, and excited to actually get stuff done.
Good. Glad to have that attitude. Appreciate it. Thanks, Paco.
Hey guys, can I introduce myself next?
Yes, you may.
Hey, my name is Callista, and I've been a member of this committee since about 2015-ish. I work in sales all over the city, so I don't own a car, but I do have familiarity with driving in the city, which is a nightmare, and parking. And I've also frequently used public transit, including a city bike, my own bike, and dollar vans to get around. And I am also very passionate about transportation equity and street safety, making it safer for people to maneuver around the city. I strongly believe that we have a very dangerous past few years of people getting killed and injured. And I hope that as a committee, we can work on making our district more safe to walk and maneuver around. And I look forward to the work that we will get to this coming year.
Great, always good to hear that. And yeah, that is one of the focuses of our committee, making sure that roads are safer. So it's definitely something we can appreciate and all we're work towards. Any other intros?
Hey,
Stanley.
I'm Stanley Greenberg. I'm an artist, formerly in city government a long time ago, including DOT and the mayor's office. And I commute by bicycle, on foot, and the subway. And I've seen too many dangerous things happen in the neighborhood. So I'm here as I've been for, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 10 years, I think, trying to make it safer and almost always frustrated. So I'm looking forward to changing that this year.
Great, definitely something we want to all work towards too. Any other intros?
Hi, we could introduce ourselves. We're not on the board. We are homeowners in the district though, and we have a car and we're transporting our kids all over the city. But we just had a concern and Dante suggested that we join this call. So just want to introduce ourselves. I'm Karen and this is my husband, Roger.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome. Thanks for joining. You're welcome. All right, anyone else want to introduce themselves?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Zach. It's my second year coming to these meetings. I will always be 10 minutes late, and I apologize for that. I have other things I'm coming from. I have been in the district for, I think, 3 years now, Brooklyn for 6. Before that, I was in Boston. I don't own a car. I use a bicycle, and I walk, take the bus and the train to get around. I'm also very invested in street safety and street equity. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish in the committee. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, glad to have you. Anybody else? Quick intro.
Her response wasn't the proper one for somebody.
Good evening. I'm Nicholas Almorno. I'm member of the board, interested in automotive equipment, what's going on. And I have something special regarding transportation, regarding the location, about fire and plastic.
That you're saying that somebody make a
Which
police
DOT
call saying
control.
that there was a disturbance. So when you call the police.
All right, glad to have you, Nicholas. Yeah, Tara?
Hey, hello.
Mhm.
This is Teresa Westerdahl. I'm a CV9 member. I serve on the environmental committee for 3 years now, and I just wanted to say hi and saw your agenda, and there's quite a few things on there that my neighborhood has concerns with, especially the car share program, a few other things. So I'm just here to talk about that when you get to it on the agenda. And wanted to say hi to everyone. And welcome to the new chair.
Thank you, Teresa.
All right.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad folks are already like in tune with the agenda and can see what they want to focus on an individual level. So feel free to go ahead.
Hi everyone. My name is Musa. I live in Flatbush, but I'm in PLG all the time for friends, family, business, and everything under the sun. So I also saw the agenda and I was interested in kind of hearing the way the topics you guys discussed today. Little fun fact, I am also the co-chair of the Transportation Committee of CB14. And so I just came to pop by to see what you guys are talking about, and to the extent, Ethan, you and I want to ever talk or coordinate, we should be in touch.
For sure, we're pretty close from a district perspective. So yeah, it would make sense for sure for us to work together.
Thank you.
All right, any more intros? It's like we're all introduced to each other at this point. All right. Cool. So moving down on the agenda, next we have committee expectations and procedures. We want to basically go into what we're expected to handle as a committee and how we're expected to handle those things. And in this part, I want us to, all get an idea what our job is. And Dante here, so he can probably help us, go over that a bit. You came at a good time, Dante. Just so that we can all be pretty clear on what our job looks like and what our functions look like, so that we can more effectively do those things. So Dante, actually, it would be good if you could go first and kind of give the committee a bit of a sneak peek at what our role really is.
Right. So, I think that you heard, I guess, some of the sentiments from some of the committee members who introduced themselves. They've been on the committee for some time, and you could hear, I guess, the excitement with some new faces and hopefully new direction with the committee. I think that, in our conversations, Ethan, we made it very clear, like, we really feel like this is a committee that should be pumping out recommendations, like a lot. And so, this is something that Ethan and I, we both see eye to eye on. And, as a committee, I know that you all do your due diligence without a doubt, definitely when it comes to researching and finding the issues. And so, I think that, the goals and really the expectation of this committee is to produce recommendations to send up to the board, so that the board can hear as a whole, okay, here are the transportation issues that we're having here in the district. I can only imagine that some of the other board members have similar issues that they're going through, but they're on different committees, they're doing different things. So, not every person has the opportunity to be here. So, I think that, with the experience on the committee, I do truly believe that the recommendations that will be coming out of this committee will be thorough. And I do think that we have an opportunity to really set the stage for what this committee can do moving forward. You all see the agenda, you all know the different programs that are coming out from the Department of Transportation for the most part. It's a lot. And, a lot of information is going to be coming out. I ask you to help me, help the board staff to disseminate the information. We want to make sure people are getting accurate information on projects, whatever it may be, if there's public hearings, whatever it is. So I just ask that, if you know people who aren't connected to the board, if they have transportation concerns or ideas, it doesn't always have to be a concern, connect them to this space so we can continue to build this committee and connect people who have these similar thoughts pertaining to transportation. So we're here at the board office. We're a resource. You all know us, use us. So reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. That was very clear. Appreciate it. Felice, feel free to go ahead.
Question, are we going by the agenda as far as committee expectations, election of vice chair, or can we just dive in to these issues? I just want to know if there's a different order, or we can just dive in to the issues that's going on in our community.
So in section 5, where we have identifying issues, I want us to go by the agenda, at least for the most part, so that we all know what to expect. and we don't get bogged down by issues and end up, spending a lot of time on one and not getting through it. But there is a space where we can all, get our issues out there and kind of like set the tone for what issues we do want to tackle as we move forward. So yes, we're going to go by the agenda, but there is a space that will allow us to get those issues out.
Okay, I only asked because I'm seeking for the botanical gardens as well. So I just wanted to know whenever you're ready to do your order, then I'll raise my hand to speak on things. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. All right. So just to add to what Dante was saying, the way that I see this committee is, we're a group of people who are zooming in on a particular group of issues, right? Transportation. And for us, we want to make sure that we don't get slowed down and bogged down by, gathering information or trying to understand if a problem is a problem. I want us to be in a place where we can adequately, have our opinions and concerns sent out so that they can be heard, and so that if we need clarification, we can get that after we've expressed the issue or the concern. All right. So first off, I want all of us to be able to have our concerns met, and that's going to mainly happen by getting recommendations or opinions, concern statements out, so that we can really have, CB9 not only accounted for and treated well and have the board know what we're putting out, but also so that, agencies don't go around CB9 as much as they currently do in the future. Because of course, if we have a culture of, moving slowly and not expressing our sentiments on things and getting the board, active with, our requests for information or our recommendations, agencies will continue to, skirt CB9 and the community boards, in general. And that'll just diminish what we can do and what people are seeing from us. So moving fast and getting actual recommendations out is going to be key for us to get our objectives completed. And I think from what I've heard, I think the majority of the committee, if not everyone here, is kind of looking for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is elect a vice chair and a secretary. And I believe we have a quorum for that. Is that right, Dante?
Let me take a look. I see Felice. I see. Yes, got it. Lori Ann Wolfley. That's Lori Ann, that's right. Yep. Yes, you have the quorum.
Okay, great. Good. All right. So the vice chair, the main role of the vice chair would be to fill in for chair when the chair isn't able to be here. All right. More responsibilities may be added as we go along, but as of right now, the vice chair would be, essentially chair when the chair is not here. Would anyone else here on the committee like to be elected to that role?
Jeffrey Graham.
Jeffrey and Patsy Paco, hand raised.
Yes.
All right.
I didn't nominate myself. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Are we nominating people, or how would that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I had nominated you.
Oh no, I'm not interested.
Phillies.
So
Okay.
I think
I want to note that per bylaws, the vice chair must be a board member.
Yeah.
I'm a community member for many years, but just community member, so I'm probably not eligible then.
Okay. The board members for the eligible would be Felice, Benny, and Lorianne. I don't think Lorianne's here right now.
Who are the committee, I'm sorry, who are the board members?
Board members will be me, Felice, Benny, and Lorianne Wolseley. But Lorianne is not here today, from what I'm seeing.
Can new members be vice chair, or, because I know they can't be chair?
I think you just said you have to be a board member.
Right, but I'm saying new board members.
Oh,
I believe they can be.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, they can be, right?
Are they, okay, because I know chairs, you have to be at least a board member for a year in order to be chair.
Yeah, that's of the general board, but I believe committees don't require that, right?
Oh, okay.
All right,
Yeah.
well, it sounds like I'm gonna have to do it.
It's either you or Benny right now.
Well, I'll just put my skirt on.
I'm a new
Okay.
member, so I'll defer to Felicia.
All right, that works.
Can I ask just a
Paco?
question about this? Is this a new, I'm just curious, is this new? Because I've been coming to these meetings for 5 or 6 years, if not more. We've never had a vice chair within the committee before that I can recall. And I know Fred was the acting vice chair for the last, or acting chair for the last.
Yeah,
So what did,
Dante, I believe maybe
What
you'll give
changed?
you an answer for that.
Yeah, so it's not new. It's in the bylaws. I believe it says may elect a vice chair, so it's really up to the chair if they want that structure. But again, I think that having a vice chair would be very helpful in the event that obviously a chair isn't able to attend. And the type of work that you guys are going to be doing, I think a vice chair could slide in easily and continue the conversation. So a month isn't missed.
Agreed. And yeah, since we're trying to be effective quickly, I think a vice chair would help make that more seamless. All right, so Felice, do we have unanimous consent that Felice can be elected as vice chair?
Okay.
Yeah, no opposition, so, all right, Felice.
All right,
Robertson,
thank you.
elected as vice chair.
Legal, make a motion.
Yep.
That's a motion.
Yeah, I'm to elect Felice Robertson as chair of the committee. Looks like we have no opposition to that. All right. So yeah, Felice, you will be elected to the vice chair post. We also want to elect a secretary. Dante, do you think a secretary would be necessary in a case like this? Like ours?
I would definitely encourage a secretary for the committee. Per bylaws, secretary of the committee is supposed to send them to the executive secretary. So the way that we essentially do it is the committee secretary would type up the minutes, probably during the meeting, and then send them over to the board office, and then we would post them for the public. I think that having a secretary takes some of the pressure off of the committee chair to have to do it, and the secretary can be anybody. It doesn't have to be, 1 month it could be this person, next month it could be another person. So it's not, just one person's responsibility.
And just so the whole committee knows, it's not a position that requires someone to be a board member. Is that correct? Okay. Would anyone like to nominate themselves or anyone else for the secretary position on this committee?
I have a question, I'm not nominating myself, I have a question about it though. To some degree, what's the point of it, considering these meetings are uploaded to YouTube and there's a transcript of it that's auto-generated by YouTube?
That was my question also.
Okay, so it's essentially procedure, yes. But right now, this month, we're virtual. There might be a point where we go back in person. So it's just kind of like, we like to just keep a steady hand on how we do a procedure with the minutes. That's all.
And to add to that, the secretary's job is not necessarily transcribing the meetings. It's really just keeping a clear account of what business items were discussed and what actions were taken. So it's less about the actual words that were discussed and more about the issues that we went over and what was done about them. So YouTube might not do the best job at that. Humans might be a lot better at that than we, than we might think. Yeah, you can go ahead, Teresa.
I just want to say that as a reader of the minutes, that they're pretty important for a committee to have, because I often look back on them and it seemed the attendance and what the board accomplished, even if it's just, you know, bullet points, is pretty important to see and not have to go through all the YouTube dialogue. So it's just pretty simple, basic minutes are wonderful to have, and when they're not there, I notice. So it's I'm just emphasizing the importance. So thank you.
You're welcome. And yeah, to add to that too, they're a pretty vital part of what we do as a committee and what the board does, because oftentimes we will get together, discuss a, an issue, and then maybe send a recommendation or send some kind of communication that is one action we can take on that issue. And it's important to have a paper trail, a record of what was done, especially now that we're trying to not only get more done, but also have more of an impact on agencies and the decisions that they make. So it'll be much more important now than probably even before to have that record of what we did and what we talked about, so that if we ever have to, and make sure that we know what was said and done here, that those records exist. So if we care about what we're doing on this committee and we want, others to care, we're going to need to have records. And it's not painstaking records that have to be taken, no word by word, log, just a general idea of what was spoken about, what on the agenda was tackled, and how it was tackled in the meeting itself. So does anyone want to have a responsibility and at least be, in the mix with regards to what is being done and recorded? Paco?
Yeah, if no one else wants to, I'll do it.
Okay. Does anybody else want to nominate themselves or anyone else? Okay. Paco. Let's see. So it maybe you. So yeah, I move to elect Paco to the post. Do you have any opposition to that?
Nope.
None at all. All right, looks good. So Paco, I think you'll be elected to committee secretary post. It looks like we have no opposition to it. Unanimous consent. All right. So Paco and Felice, secretary and vice chair. Now we're in part 5, which is the identifying issues section of the meeting. And in here, we're going to be identifying the issues that we all deal with, figuring out which issues we'd like to discuss, what action we want to take about those issues, how we'll address them, and we may also set some committee goals for this year and perhaps next year about these issues. At this point, I want to kind of open some discussion a bit around what issues we've all been dealing with. There are a few that I've kind of spotlighted as focuses for this meeting, but I do want to give everyone a chance to chime in and have some of their issues, get some attention. So if you have anything you want to discuss, feel free to raise your hand. Let's tackle this in order. Stanley, you are the first, so feel free to go ahead.
Thank you, Ethan. Two things, one more general than the other. I think somebody or many people have pointed out that we probably have fewer bike lanes and fewer protected bike lanes in PLG than anywhere else in the city, if not Brooklyn. And we need a real network. There's a little bit if you're going north-south, there's almost nothing if you're going east of Prospect Park, and that prevents people from riding that way and commuting that way and going to businesses that way. And so we need to come up with a plan to pitch to DOT on that. And the second issue and I've talked to Dante about this a bunch of times, is about Ocean Avenue, which basically acts as a highway during rush hour and other times. I can't tell you how many times I have nearly been run over crossing it. I live on Ocean. There's also a bike lane coming to Ocean, which is going to be on the curb. And we haven't seen those plans since the original plan, so maybe 3 years. I believe it's about to go to contract, and I have some real concerns about that. Dante probably told you we were not able to get a representative from DOT for the entire last year to come talk with us. So, you know, that's sort of adjacent to these priorities of what we do in the district, but we need DOT's ear and we don't have it now. And some pressure needs to be put on them to come to our meetings when we ask them to. So those are my top things.
Okay, good to hear, good to note. I'll be taking notes of all of these aside from the minutes, just so that we, you know, have a good idea of what issues are brought up in these meetings. Please, feel free to go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to give kudos and appreciation for this committee and Dante to say that we've been trying for many years, and I've been on this board as long as, or on this committee as long as Jeffrey has, 7 years. It could be more, but the point is this: that we had requested to get a stop light or some sort of mechanism that would slow down the traffic here on Washington Avenue, for the reason that someone has been killed, several people have been hit, buildings, cars have been ran into, and also the store. And I have to commend Dante for successfully succeeding to get something done with DOT, that they will finally look into putting some sort of mechanism here to bring attention to that and stop, you know, the injuries and the killings that's occurring on this Washington Avenue and Montgomery. I just had to say that. Okay.
I'm glad you said that, because Dante and I were discussing that a few days ago, and it came up that there's an idea that DOT tries to avoid adding speed bumps on two-way traffic streets, and there are speed bumps on Lefferts, and that's a two-way street. So perhaps there are a few more factors that come into play where they'll put these speed bumps, but two-way is not one of them. So maybe we have another reason for them to, you know, not waste time in adding some kind of, you know, mechanism to slow traffic on Washington.
Right. But the speed bumps can't be on this block because of the bus, but they are looking into lights, because I know for a fact that a few people in Botanical Gardens have been hit by cars just crossing over the street. And also we can't even get across to get to the bus. So, you know, I'm really, really thankful for that. So that's just one thing I touch on. It's just so many others I'd like to touch on as well. But I'll stick with that and let other people speak, and then I'll come into other things that, you know, we're going to speak on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Melissa, feel free. You can proceed.
I have a few issues, and some of them I brought up in the past year, but we haven't really come to a solution for any of them. And a few of them actually happened towards the end of our last session. So I brought it to the board, to the committee's attention in May. There were 2 hit and runs on Rogers within a 2-block radius and within 2 months. One of them was on Rogers and Empire, and then one of them was at Rogers and Lincoln. I don't know the status of those cases, whether or not they, you know, the NYPD found who was responsible, but it's clearly something that's been happening a little too close together and too frequently. It shouldn't happen at all, really. And then I think in June there was a hit and run on Flatbush Avenue in Lincoln. So we clearly have a problem with hit and runs in the district. I'm not quite sure what the solution can be, because it also involves the NYPD's and, you know, enforcement. but I think that's something that we definitely need to address. Maybe there's some infrastructure things that we can suggest to DOT to take a look at. Another issue that I wanted to bring up is the intersection of Maple and Flatbush, and Maple, Flatbush, and Beekman. It's a really problematic intersection to cross. There's been numerous times that I've almost gotten hit by a car as they ran through red lights. And this has happened for years. And I think we need some red light cameras there. The only problem is that the state designates how many red lights we can have as a maximum for the city, and we're apparently capped out. But maybe as a committee and a board, we can request that DOT add us to a list of locations that can be considered for red lights if the state legislature approves for more of them. But it's a really, really dangerous intersection to cross. And it's not just me, other people have complained about this, and considering that we have seniors and children and, you know, just everyday people who don't want to die as they get from point A to point B, that's something, these are all issues that we need to address. And one more thing, besides agreeing that we do need more bike lanes and interconnectivity, especially with the introduction of city bike stations to our district, I think we also need an open street. We've never had an open street throughout this pandemic. And usually to enjoy something like this, you know, the closest one to our neighborhood is Vanderbilt. And it's really nice. If you guys haven't been to Vanderbilt Open Street on the weekends, it's open on Saturday and Sundays, I think between like 11 and 6. I could be wrong, or 11 and 8, but it's really nice. You know, it's a very communal feel. They have classes and things like that. And I really think having something like that in this district would be remarkable. There's a few streets that we can discuss. One of them being Lincoln Road, which is a very heavy foot traffic area. And it's also an entrance to the park and the subway. And I think we really need to strongly consider that and request it from DOT or whatever avenues we need to discuss. And that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, noted all those. We're going to be looking at those going forward. So thanks for your contribution. Speaking about that Maple Beekman area, I have tried crossing that. It is a little bit tough. It requires a little skill. Yeah, experienced that myself. And as for Lincoln Road, it's definitely a good option, but I mean, you know, it does so many different things. Like there's the bus terminus close to Ocean. There's a lot that goes on there. So we might, if I could foresee that being maybe an open block, maybe part of it, you know, becomes the open street. But I mean, even Vanderbilt has buses on it too. So it's a potential. We can see what that looks like, especially from the DOT's feedback. Benny, you can go ahead.
All right, thanks. No, I don't know, again, if it's our purview or something regarding NYPD, but I mean, it's gotten very scary, you know, just walking on a sidewalk. You've got electric bikes, delivery bikes, mopeds, even motorcycles sometimes using a sidewalk. Even on the streets, they're coming the wrong way, they're speeding. I mean, it seems like there's just a lack of law and order. I don't know, NYPD doesn't seem to be on the ball anymore. I don't know if it's because they're not pulling people over anymore, but I mean, we got to keep them off the sidewalks for sure. I don't know if DOT can do anything about that, putting maybe just, you know, like, you know, poles or something on the sidewalks. But something's got to be done to keep these. I mean, I think it's illegal for them to be on the sidewalk. Right? Even bicycles are not supposed to be on the sidewalk. So
above a certain age, yeah.
All right, so I mean, I don't know what we can do if we put pressure on NYPD, maybe to start enforcing the laws, but it seems like things are getting out of hand more and more.
Yeah, there's a lot of demand for these e-bikes to move quickly, and I guess a lot of them probably choose the relative safety of sidewalks over the relative danger of the roadways, and they try to, you know, move quickly that way. But it's not always safe for those who are not riding. And I remember there were a lot of efforts to fix that. That even included cracking down on some of the instant grocery market because I remember they were a part of the big surge. You know, folks like Moore, like Gorillas, they were a part of the big surge for that. And they were kind of forced to, I guess, downsize their fast delivery claims a couple of years ago, if not last year, from like instant or like under 30 minutes to not, giving a set time at that. Some of them decreased their delivery radii, all those things happen. But yeah, we definitely need to be taking some more action on that if we can. So yeah, we'll be talking that as we go forward for sure too. Is that anybody, or do you have anything more, or is that for me concern?
May I intervene, please? For someone that's affiliated with the 71st Precinct, we have our general meetings. These topics that he's discussing with the bikes on the sidewalk and mopeds and so forth can be brought there. Okay, and I will speak to Paul Cohen, who is the president, so that we can get some more to address it and speak to the captain. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Karen, Roger, feel free to go ahead.
Thanks, Ethan. We lost Roger to bedtime, but appreciate the opportunity to speak this meeting. Before I bring up our concern, I just wanted to echo Callista's note about the Rogers Avenue sort of like runway that's become. I wasn't aware of how many hit and runs they have, but we live along Rogers, and if like we just see people speeding down the bus lane, even during high traffic hours when we're commuting our kids to school, and it's really nerve wracking because we have kids, and then there's so many daycares along Rogers, and it definitely feels really unsafe. So I'm glad you brought that up, because we talk about it all the time, us and our neighbors. Feels like maybe there's no like cameras or something, or they're not enforcing that busing thing, because we see it constantly. But we wanted to bring to the board a concern that we have. We live on Rogers between Midwood and Maple, and there is a fire department along our block, and the firefighters are allowed to park kind of like perpendicular, so not like how people normally park along the sidewalk. They're on the sidewalk, and while we're very grateful to the firefighters and the hard work that they do, we are concerned because there's no sight line because of the way that they're parking. So you can't see, if you're on Rogers Avenue, you can't see what's happening between the cars. But because we live on the avenue, we can. And unfortunately, we've seen some pretty terrible stuff happening. In May, we actually saw an assault that was really, really upsetting. We did what we could to stop it and help, but it was happening between two cars. The police came to our house a couple weeks ago because it happened again, and they're hoping to find footage from our cameras. And it's also just like because of that safety concern of like how fast cars are going down Rogers Avenue, you can't see kids because of the way those cars are parked. So it feels really unsafe when our kids are crossing from that side of the street to our side. We've also seen things like drug use happening over there, which, it's the city, but it's not great for our kids to see. And there was an illegal club there that was hosting like late night parties, and it was very hard. We would call noise complaints, but it was very hard for the cops to even see because of the way the cars were parked. So it's all kind of like a long-winded way to say that, like, for us, it feels like a very easy solution is to just have them park like everybody else. We've lived in other neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Not all departments are allowed to park like that. And because it's like so unsafe, it feels like worth raising. Sort of what I had.
All good. All right. Yeah, that is good to hear. Maybe we can see if the fire department has another option. Valerie, recognized guy.
Hello. How are you doing this evening? I was wanting to not piggyback on the Rogers Avenue concern, but I was wondering if we might be able to get a traffic study to see the actual activity and the things that are happening on Rogers Avenue. Because I know on my corner, Rogers and Crown Street, it seems like we've had a number of accidents with vehicles that have maybe come on the street or different things that are happening on that particular corner. To include one time, I don't know if those of you who have been in the neighborhood long enough from when the fire engine kind of went into the apartment building right there on the corner of Rogers and Crown Street. So I'm not sure what's happening with the traffic flow as it comes up Rogers Avenue, because those of you who are in the area know that when you cross Empire Boulevard, the street kind of narrows a little bit when you go up Rogers Avenue going north on Rogers Avenue. So I don't know if that has an impact of the people being anxious as they drive. So I was just wondering if maybe a traffic study or something can be conducted to see, even as far down as Midwood and some of the other parts of Rogers Avenue, exactly what's kind of happening in that particular area, and possibly if we are able to have other calming methods put on Rogers Avenue to see if it would provide a safer opportunity for people to drive, to bike, to cross the street for quality of living purposes. Also, I'm wondering if we can kind of get like more heads up, or if there's more consideration and conversation when they're having new installations of city bike stations. And I'm noticing now that we're losing more parking to car share spaces, I think, or zip cars or something on some of the blocks. So for example, on Crown Street or in our area, we've had several new city bike installations, but then also we also have car share installations. So additional spaces are being removed close together. So I understand, and you know, we live in America, so I'm quite sure there's an economic value to somebody here to have these different installations there, but for consideration of the people that are in the neighborhood, as we're looking at places to put the new installations, because I'm finding that a lot of people are benefiting from the city bikes and things like that as a mode of transportation. Also, I've been asking a while, I work at the Major Owens Center, and we've been asking for a study so that we can get some bike racks. We'll be 2 years here at Major Owens, and we've yet to even get any kind of response with regard to the installation of bike racks, so that when the individuals come to participate and they come to the Major Owens on bikes with their scooters or different things, that they have a nice place where they can put their vehicles instead of all bunched up on the sides of the poles that are at Major Owens Center. And also, this is just a repeat though, about the electric bikes and the bicycle riding in general on the sidewalks. I'm not sure if everyone is making a delivery when they're riding their electric bikes or regular propelled bicycles on the street. But, you know, I thought the bikes were supposed to be in the streets and not on the sidewalk. So those are my concerns at this point, that we could look at that. And I think at one point we were also talking about water ponding. I don't know if it was Midwood a while ago, that we had some streets back there where they closed up a drain and the people had all the water that was ponding on their streets. This was a while ago, but we did have a list of different things. It was bigger than just the bicycles and the cars, of traffic situations where in the wintertime, the water would pond and turn into ice, and some people weren't able to really, you know, live properly, or the quality of the life was infringed upon by that particular situation. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicola?
May I? Is it my turn? I don't want to go before anyone.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to touch on what Valerie is saying about the cars. What do they call that?
Share spots?
Because, I'm sorry?
The car share spots?
Right, the cars that are taking up 2 spaces there. There's a name for that. Well, nevertheless, those cars that have gotten into some sort of contract with the city, I believe they pay $450 for the space on Montgomery, $450 for the space on Washington. So what I'm getting at is that every block that they occupy, the 2-car space, they pay $450. And let me mention that these cars, zip cars, is it called? These cars have a space in the garden parking lot, or in between the museum and the garden, where they are parked. So I think that for it not to come to the Transportation Committee, it's a total disrespect for the people in the community. And I saw that they put a ticket on one of the tenants that lives in front of her. She lives in this building. Her car's parked in front. She's handicapped. Her car's parked right in front where she normally does. Makes it convenient. Everyone knows this car. And they ticket her just for the space for these 2 cars, just for the, and it was not even indicated. I took a picture of that as well. Something has to give, because now you open a door to this. Now you're going to open a door to like Hertz Rent-A-Car or Dollar Rent-A-Car. I mean, everyone is just going to occupy the space, which is it's not right. We all pay taxes, and you're in your own community where you live, and you can't even park on your block. This is not right. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's one of our priorities. It's actually on the agenda later on, and we will be looking at that. Regarding the cost, yeah, the fee is about $475 a year for the application. I think it's per spot, but we are going to be looking into that in more detail. So yeah.
And for the record, it's called Zipcar. I'm sorry. For the record, it's called Zipcars. Okay.
Yeah, and it isn't just Zipcar. There are a few other brands that do it too, called Get Around, and a couple of others. Generally, it's called the car share program. It's mainly aimed at making cars more accessible, so that people would need to own one. They can use one when they need it, but we don't want it to be at the expense of ease of living for those who do happen to own one in the area.
Correct. Is this a good time to speak on the buses that they plan to reroute or redirect or remove?
Not just yet. I'm mainly looking to get like new items in this time, and then we're going to move on to like the things that are on the agenda and knock those out one after the other. Stanley, you're up next now.
Hi, this is Nicola Cox. I think I got skipped.
Did you? I didn't notice.
Yeah, my hand got lowered.
I was supposed to. I thought I was getting ready to speak, and then Felice started, and then my hand got lowered, and I got kicked in the back.
Okay, go ahead.
No problem. I just wanted to bring up a couple things. One, we were talking about the hit and runs on Bedford Avenue and how dangerous the area around Maple, Beekman is. And I just wanted to remind people that one of our board members, a longtime board member, Ben Edwards, was killed in that area a few years ago. So just a sensitivity, because I know we have several new board members, but it is something that's very sensitive. They've renamed that corner, I think it's Maple, and Flatbush Avenue has been renamed for him. And so it is something that's very important, I think, to the board. He was head of ULURP committee, he was a treasurer, he was part of Lefferts Manor, and a very nice man. And my heart breaks every time I look at that corner and think about what happened to him simply trying to cross the street. So yes, whatever we can do to make that area safer, I definitely agree. The other point I wanted to make, I think it was Callista was talking about potentially making Lincoln Road between Flatbush and Ocean an open street. And I always think about the fact you mentioned it, that is a terminus for buses. We have a train station exit there. We have an entrance to the park there. We have a supermarket on that block. To think that we're going to close it off to provide art classes or, you know, to openly walk around when we have one of the biggest backyards and open spaces in Brooklyn called the Prospect Park right there. I mean, one of the reasons we don't have a lot of open streets in our neighborhood is because we have the biggest open spaces. We have the Botanic Gardens and we have Prospect Park right here. Let's look at what we can do to leverage and utilize the open spaces we already have and not try to create more congestion and traffic and problems outside of the area. Thank you.
Yeah, very good point there. When it comes time to zoom in on that issue, we are going to have a pretty thorough debate on that, and we'll have a vote on a motion. But it's always good to see both sides of that. Thank you, appreciate it, Nicola. Stanley, you're recognizing God.
Thanks, Ethan. Just wanted to follow up on a couple things about Lincoln Road. Dante, are you still here?
I
don't think he is.
Don't think
So,
he is.
Dante had told me a few months ago that, because I was talking to him about how most of the parking spaces on Lincoln are usually taken by cars that have MTA vests in their window. They don't have permits, they just have vests. And everyone complains that bike share is taking away parking space, car share is taking away parking space. But we don't talk about the illegal parking that's taking away parking space. That's not shared by the neighborhood. That's by people who are driving to our neighborhood and parking here illegally. So something that we need to do is get on the MTA for all of their employees, many of whom have cars with licenses from states 1,000 miles from here. They're parking on Lincoln. He also told me that the section of Lincoln between the train station and Ocean Avenue on that side of the street was going to be turned into a bus stop, and that hasn't happened yet. So I'm wondering if that's still happening and if there's a timetable for that. So that was one follow-up. On the Rogers Firehouse, I totally agree. That's like the most dangerous place. And there's a club there, a music club that has lots of people coming in and out of it every night. And it's just impossible to walk around there. I don't know why we can't get the firefighters to behave. They behave mostly on Union Street, which is a very busy street right near the food co-op. So these guys should do the same thing. This is sort of a one-off idea. I was walking on Flatbush on the day of the parade, and there were millions of people out and millions of barbecues and picnics and so many interesting arrangements of people. And the street was open to cars. And I thought, why can't we close Flatbush Avenue, 5 blocks of it on parade day? The rest of it is closed between, I guess, I forget if it's Lincoln or Empire and Grand Army. So why not close a few more blocks of it and make it into the block party that it really is? It's a year away, but it's probably not too early to pitch that idea. That would be our one-day open street. I think that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Welcome. Thanks for contributing. Paco, feel free.
Hi there. Just to, I guess, a couple new things and to follow up on some. I pass by the FDNY station every day to drop my kid, my older kid, and now my younger kid at the schools on Rogers. I agree, it's a problem. And to me, the solution is actually, compliance by anyone can be tough, but I find that the speeding on Rogers is in part because I guess north of Maple on the western side of the street, it's no standing. So that way it's supposed to be 2 lanes of traffic, but there's always someone who has not moved their car. So it still is essentially just a bus lane and 1 vehicle lane of traffic. I would question the efficiency of that no standing lane. That's, after 8 a.m. or something. It's probably in part for street cleaning as well, but it does not seem to be working as a no standing lane. I would say we make that dedicated FDNY parking. It's across the street and then 1 block north. And I think then as long as firefighters would use it, I know they're carrying their gear, which is heavy, but I mean, I would hope that they're strong enough to carry their gear 1 block or less than a block. So I think that there might be a compromise solution as long as we can get their buy-in, but all the concerns about it, I would fully agree. I would also say the sightlines are terrifying because one of the firefighters was not trying to, but nearly hit my kid. He gently touched my kid, but touching, my 2-year-old with a 4,000-pound truck made me want to, there were a lot of words exchanged, I would say, by that. So they can't see, they should not be on the sidewalk. It's very simple. Then as far as Lincoln between Ocean and Flatbush, I agree. It's a super busy intersection, super vital to the neighborhood, and there's a lot of activity going on there. I'm sorry, I don't know who had mentioned it, but that we're so close to Prospect Park. I agree we should use the park as much as possible. My concern there, and I think the point worth also mentioning, is that the sidewalk is spilling over, that the number of people trying to get to the park is more than the number that can fit on the sidewalk. And I think that kind of is almost forcing our hand to reconsider the street. Is it properly serving everyone coming by bus and by train and by foot? So I think there's a lot to explore there. And then a couple of things that haven't been said, but I'd like to just put out there, the intersection of Empire, Flatbush, and Ocean is a mess. Crossing that as a pedestrian is pretty scary. And I noticed over the summer, there's a lot of camps for young kids that are in Prospect Park. The number of little kids I saw scurrying across the street, or parents dropping a kid by bike, and there's the bike lane that is there just dead ends. I think that intersection itself needs an overhaul. Some of that may be coming anyway with pending B41 changes, whatever they may be. But I think that's something that should be on our radar. Then Empire, the eastern end of Empire, where it meets with Remsen and Utica, there was a pedestrian plaza installed there. It's been done for a while now. I want to say maybe at least a year, maybe even more. I don't think that there has been a proper traffic analysis post installation, because all of last year when my oldest daughter goes to PS 770, that's just east of that. And every single morning as we're passing through, the unintended consequence is that the lights. Say that again?
Oh.
The unintended consequence that I'm seeing is that the lights are not timed properly for cars to clear intersections. And so anyone trying to just follow the traffic pattern is getting caught at an intersection and then blocking the crosswalk. And it happens from right where that slip starts at, I guess, East 91st, East 92nd, East 93rd, all of those. And I think it's all the spillover of that Remsen project. And then the one other thing I will say, I think I'd mentioned this maybe 3-4 years ago, but Brooklyn Avenue is very wide, especially where it kind of dead ends at by the hospital over there. And there's Wingate Park. There's a few crossings that don't even have crosswalks there, but knowing that there's a children's playground right there, and it's I think it's officially 2 moving lanes, but each moving lane is probably 12 feet, maybe 15 feet. You could triple park and still have room for 2 lanes of traffic there. I think that some calming is worth exploring there, certainly next to the playground.
Thank you, Paco. Appreciate it. Costa, go ahead. Oh.
I'd like to make a couple of suggestions, and I've suggested this the past couple of years, but we never got around to doing it. In the past, there were a few times that we've done as a committee walks of the district on a weekend day. And even
Okay.
once that we've done a bike ride of the district. And the benefit of that is, it's one thing to have people come in and also, to voice their concerns and voice our own concerns. But when we walk or bike the district, we can, get an even clearer view of things that are in need of improvements, whether it's infrastructure related or safety or whatnot. So I would like to suggest, if people in the committee are interested, that we can organize a committee walk of the district and a bike ride at some point in the fall or the spring. And we can write down and, take notes of what improvements or, how any suggestions or of improvements would look like. And I think the biggest crutch from doing walks in the past and also just having suggestions of people coming into our meetings is that we take all these notes and we send them into DOT, but nothing ever comes from them. So that would be another thing that hopefully we can have a different result this year. But what's your thoughts as new chair? Would you be open to that, to organizing something like that?
Yes, I would. I think it would be good for us to get together and actually kind of inspect parts of the district and see for ourselves as a group what's going on and perhaps even discuss potential solutions. I think it would be mostly good outcomes from that, if not only good outcomes from that. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Teresa, feel free to go ahead. If this is about
hi.
the car share spot, it's almost time for that, but feel free, even if it includes it, it's fine, but that's the
Well,
next thing on the
I'm
agenda.
out here on the street and I've got, I made it so I could turn it around and just show everybody. So this is what's happening. This is what's happening on many blocks. A lot of parking places are being taken. It's Zipcar here. In other neighborhoods and other block, it's a different vendor. It's the car share, DOT, it's Zipcar. So they took up 1, 2, 3, really 4 spaces. Normally we could fit 3 cars here for parking in my neighborhood. And this is the 4th spot. So anyway, I just wanted to show everybody that who may not know or be aware of what's happening. They put paint here. As you can see, they painted these spots, which is helpful because I think hundreds and hundreds of people were issued tickets in my in this area. Anybody coming to park here, it's really hard to tell what's happening before they painted, and there were so many tickets issued. And the rollout of the ride shares or the car shares or whatever it is, sorry, the rollout was extremely poorly done. There was no notification, I believe, given by DOT to the community board. I don't think, Rita Joseph, Crystal, I don't know if anybody got any notices at all because we didn't know about it. And I think if people were notified, we should have all gotten a flyer in the mail, some emails, of what was happening and what was going on. So, there was no ability to comment on it at all, where the spots were going, how many were coming, I don't even know how the ride shares work. And I don't think any of my neighbors do. And people the tickets were $125 each, and a lot of these were given out to middle class, lower class, anybody who has a car got these tickets. So now they're getting less tickets because those 2 spots are painted. So that's a little better. But I would like to see some kind of a resolution for a moratorium on any more ride shares being put on until the community is able to comment on it and discuss it. I know there was some kind of roll up, but I think every neighborhood should be let know what's happening because they're really affecting and impacting this neighborhood in a negative way with parking. People need their spots. Some people are disabled. I would say all my neighbors are complaining about it. And I know they've called community board office, and that's just my thing for the ride shares. And I think the same thing for the bikes is there needs to be some kind of a resolution in a discussion with the community before these are put out, because sometimes there's better places to put them. Or, they're taking away parking or not in the best place. So
Quick
that's
comment on that.
that's
Dante brought this up to me a while back, and I know that, Teresa, because walking through the neighborhood, people have approached me complaining about those spots as well. So yeah, people are generally kind of upset about those, and understandably why. That's a pretty heavily residential block. So I mean, it's more likely to interrupt someone's parking and have more negative effect on them than positive effect on someone who occasionally gets a car in the area.
yeah, why not on Empire? Empire, they could have put them on Empire. There's a lot of, it's totally different over there. There's very little residential.
Yeah, and
there's
there are
plenty of room
plans-
for that.
There are plans on the committee, well, not on the committee yet, but there are some plans to relocate those that are actually almost in relation. So the idea so far would be for us to send over some kind of recommendation to move those and give them a better place, because those two are probably the worst place I could have put those.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, I hope that that's in the works.
Okay, right, yeah, we'll be working on that for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jeff, feel free to proceed.
So I want to thank Nicola for reminding everyone here, or for those who didn't know, that we did lose a board member at that corner of Flatbush and Maple. And in addition to one other thing, I wanted to say that there's a lesson that we all need to take from the tragedy of that accident and all the other near misses, near accidents that happened there. That corner has, in transportation, especially in railroad operation, there's something that's known as a blind curve. And if you are crossing from the western side of Flatbush to the eastern side of Flatbush, where Flatbush makes that slight right bend, you are most at risk because you can't see what's coming and the drivers can't see you. As far as the committee is concerned, when Calissa speaks about us walking through, we need to raise our attention to not simply looking for things that are dangerous, but looking for things that we could alert the residents of CB9 as dangerous areas that aren't easily fixed by this committee saying to DOT, hey, this is a dangerous corner, do something about it. Because the simple solution for that is to straighten out that curve. And we know that's never going to happen. They cannot straighten out that curve. So what power do we have? The only thing we can do is make sure that the residents know that is a dangerous place to cross. Cross at the crosswalk. I mean, I'll admit, every now and then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna try and get across there, but I know that is a blind curve. Anybody's coming south on Flatbush as you are making that slight right bend, if somebody's in the street, it's a bad situation. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that we talk about issues where hit and run, the situation by the firehouse. Some of these things are not DOT, some of these are not MTA, some of these are PD. As Felice said, more attention has to be paid and direct the attention, the energy to the appropriate agency, because otherwise we spin our wheels and we feel frustrated like we have for many years because we're saying DOT, DOT. DOT knows there's nothing they can do. When you talk about hit and runs, that's behavior, that's law breaking. Speeding is behavior, all the calming in the world. I was on Rogers just this afternoon. I'm barely doing 25. This guy passes me doing like 30 or 40 to get in front of me to stop at the light. That is behavior, right? So all the calming in the world is not going to change that. right? So when we talk about enforcement, maybe that's where we should put more energy, because more speed bumps, more speed cameras are not going to change that behavior. All right, so that's all I got to say for now.
Thank you, Jeff. Felice, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, I want to make it quick. So Calissa, Jeffrey, you're right on point. And Calissa, what I did in my case for Washington Avenue and Montgomery, I took pictures of the angles and the corners, even the incidents itself, so that the correct parties can see exactly what you're talking about. We can go there, yes, we can take a look, but you are pointing out something. So it's good to take pictures. It's good to write down and indicate what it is, and then we can give it to the correct parties. Okay, Jeffrey's right. Behavior has a lot to do with a lot of things. Okay, and that's where the police department comes in. That's where we have our meetings, the general meetings at the school, or at Major Owens. You know, but I will notify the community board, you know, so that you would know, everyone would know when to attend those meetings and voice what you need to say. I just wanted to say, to make it easy, take pictures of those corners, exactly what you're speaking on, so we as committee members can also see where we should go, if we choose to go on our own before time or even collectively. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna get to you and Karen Stanley, because I want us to move down the agenda pretty quickly, so I'd like for you to go, and we can actually get into the issues that I was looking for us to, you know, begin tackling before the meeting began. Stanley, feel free. You can proceed.
Thanks. Sorry to have to come back again, but I just have to say something about the car sharing spaces and the bike sharing spaces. I'm sure that DOT could have done a better job of informing. We know this about them all the time, but I am so tired of hearing the idea that people have a right to a parking space, or that people who use car share are from somewhere else. I don't own a car, so when I use one, it's usually from a car share. And if I have to ride my bicycle or walk a mile to the Botanic Garden to get it, I'm not going to do it. But if it's around the corner, I am. And if a few more people get rid of their cars because they can use car share, then you will have more spaces to park. It's the same thing with congestion pricing. If not everyone can go into Manhattan and spend $25 each way, then if you are in your car, you're not going to have the same traffic. So please keep in mind, share means share, and private is private, and the street is to be shared. It's not your private driveway. Thank you.
I want to remind folks that comments and more so debate, we have a section for that, and that's going to be coming up right in the next part. On the agenda is car share, so we're going to have time for a lot of those, you know, informative back and forth debates. But thank you for that, Stanley. Appreciate it. Karen, feel free. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ethan. I was just curious if my concern about the firehouse is DOT, if this is the right place to raise the parking issue, or if I should take it to a different board meeting, or.
I believe this is the right place. Transportation also covers parking and sidewalks. And we also have an ongoing issue with the sanitation parking close to downstate, which we're currently going to be addressing too. So yeah, that's a similar problem, and we're going to be tackling that here too.
Okay, great. I just wanted to check. Thank you for clarifying.
LaShawn, you recognize? Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I just caught your comments. I'm not sure if I might be speaking out of turn, but I'm just in reply to the gentleman who spoke about the car share. let's not forget that those spots are now private. They are owned by or paid for by Zipcar or Get Around or whatever the car share company that is signed up to have a contract with the city. So we're not talking about public and private. People here pay taxes to be able to park their cars on the streets. There are plenty of other setups that could have been, it could have happened. There are a lot of different scenarios to where you wouldn't have to bike a mile to go and get a car share. I was a member of Zipcar a number of years ago, and they rented spaces from buildings nearby. But I guess, again, I know that's on the agenda, but I just wanted to comment on that because that's inaccurate to say that, private is private and public is public. Now these spots are owned or paid for by private companies. So let's be mindful of that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now would be a good time for us to move forward on the agenda and start covering some of the other issues we have right now. We have right now we have a pretty long list of issues, and there's gonna be more added soon. So we have an idea what we're gonna be working on over the next few months. So first off, since it is seemingly the most urgent thing, we can begin moving on the car share for now. So this is one issue that people have wanted to talk about for a while, and we can begin here. I mean, as we all know, car share spots are popping up in our district now. We have some in Sullivan, we have some Crown Street, we have some elsewhere, and we are going to, want to see what the opinion of the district is and what the committee's ideas and recommendations might be for where this could go. So initially, there are a few spots that have been particularly problematic for many folks. Those on Sullivan might have been an issue. Does anyone have any issues with car share right now that they may want to bring up, particularly spots that they might want relocated? We'll open debate on this, and we can have back and forth and have a vote on a recommendation on this one. But I'd like to have anyone bring up any car share locations they'd like relocated. Please let us know where they are and where you think would be a good place to have them go.
Do you want us
Sean.
to tell you that? Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead real quick.
I just wondered if you want us to tell you that now, or should we send like our idea to the community board?
No, you can send it now. This is where we discuss this stuff. And
Okay.
we can decide on this here, and we usually would send our, plans or ideas to the full board. But yeah, we can discuss this here.
Yeah, Sullivan, the
1 second.
spot.
1 second,
Sorry.
Teresa. Raise your hand. There are 3 people here waiting, so I'd prefer you to at least go behind them.
All right, sorry.
It's okay. And just to add to that, we'll take note of this, and we'll take this to a vote if we need to. To add to this too, let's try to keep our comments at or below 2 minutes, just in the interest of time to keep things moving quickly. Is that okay? All right. So yeah, LeJean, feel free to proceed. 2 minutes ideally, so you can have a smooth meeting without any long dwellings on one particular issue.
Yes, it's just the spot. So Teresa already said, Tara already said Sullivan. We have on our block Stoddard and a little corner of Montgomery, but by Bedford. These are small blocks. These are small streets, very residential. So it just doesn't seem to make sense when we have a lot of commercial corridors nearby where it would make a lot more sense. So those are my complaints of areas I would like to have reconsidered.
Okay. Zach, feel free.
Hi, thank you. Is this also a time to advocate for a car share spot in a new place, or only relocating existing ones?
Both is fine, but there
Okay.
is a bit of a focus. Yeah, you can go ahead. There's a
I'll keep it
level
quick. I'll be
of
quick. Yeah, I'm also a taxpayer. I pay my taxes. I own a car. I don't take up space on the street with my bicycle. I'm Rogers between Lincoln and Nostrand has about like 80 to 100 car spots on the road. I would love it if 1 or 2 of those was car share. I need a car like 3-4 times a year to get out of the city to go visit my parents. And if there was a car share spot here, I wouldn't have to go to like 2 neighborhoods over to get a zip car, which would be like really convenient when I was bringing my stuff. So thank you.
Can you repeat where you like them?
Oh yeah, I'm on Rogers. Sorry, I'm on Lincoln between Rogers and Nostrand.
Okay. Yeah. Paco, feel free to go ahead.
I'm just curious, not a specific location. I'm just curious, is there any precedent that like car share is new to us, but it's been in the city for a 5-year pilot already? Is there any precedent of once the spots have gone in, has the community board ever been able to make DOT move the allocated space, or is it I just don't want to waste our time with it. So if we can't move anything, then
Well,
I'm just
according to
curious.
the city charter, I believe part of the agency's job is to take our comments into consideration and act on them. And they've shown some willingness to move loading zones. Right now, there's a push to get a loading zone moved to the corner of the block where Abbott's Field is. So things like this are precisely what we can step in and make suggestions and recommendations for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my
Go
name
ahead.
is Valerie Fleming. I know I'm out of turn, but I'm asking for them to remove both of the spots that are on Crown Street and Rogers Avenue on the, I'll say the south side of the block that's closest to Rogers Avenue, because they just installed the City Bike installation, and it seems like that's kind of popular there. And so far, I haven't really seen cars that are designated as zip cars to my knowledge, or a marking that's there. So I haven't really seen the cars there using those spots. So I would say, instead of us losing like maybe 6 spots to new installations, that since the City Bike installation seems to be more popular and more active, that we really don't need that on our block. Thank you.
You're welcome. Try to avoid speaking out of turn now because people are here waiting, but thank you. Appreciate the addition, Valerie. Teresa, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I'd like to suggest that the Sullivan Place, Ludlam, Montgomery spots be removed and be replaced by spots on Rogers, Empire. These are more commercial corridors rather than residential. I do notice that it is a problem as well with the cars there. They're not moving for alt side, so it's leaving quite a bit of trash in our neighborhood, which is going to get bad and plug up the drains and cause flooding, as we've had problems with already. So they're not moving for alt side, and I've also seen people with the cars. They when they drop them off, they get inside and they have to clean them. So they throw in trash into the street and into the tree pits from the cars that they're leaving behind. And they're not moving for alternate side. And they're also parking in, like somebody's maybe in the spot and then they're leaving the car in a spot that's illegal and getting ticketed. So I guess that organization, the private organization, is going to pay those tickets, but it's causing quite a bit of chaos in my neighborhood. So, and there's plenty of other spaces on Bedford, Rogers, Empire, all around where where it's not going to be in a residential section. The area on Sullivan behind McDonald's, where the school is, there's no residents there. So I think they'd be better placed elsewhere. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, there seems to be a pretty consistent sentiment here that those spots should be better placed on more commercial areas. Sean?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I don't know what this is about a pilot program for the last 5 years, but Zipcar has been around in this community for some time. Again, I was a member, I can't even remember what year right now, but in this area, there was a Zipcar had spots in 2 developments in the area. There's one on Sullivan Place, that new short one, and then there's the one on Nostrand and Sullivan, and that's where I used to get my Zipcars. So I don't know, I think what's just has changed now is that they've decided it's more lucrative to work with the city and get spots for, you know, freaking cents on the dollar. Like, what is it? I don't even think they pay like $1 a year for the spot. So it's just that they've developed these relationships with the city that make it more viable for them, because they used to rent from developments in the area. So this is not just a thing that's new to the area. This has been around. It's just changed the look of it. So I want people to be mindful and aware of that. Thank you.
In the interest of accuracy, they do pay $475 per year for a permit. For a
Wow,
spot,
that's so
from what I
cheap.
understand.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's quite
goodness.
cheap.
Yes, it's cheap. I'm sure
Very-
developments were not charging, you know, we're not allowing them to pay $475 a year when they had parking spots in their buildings.
What do you pay for
it's-
parking on the
It's a
street?
deal. I'm sorry?
What do you pay for parking on the
I
street?
pay my taxes and I have a
That
driveway.
doesn't cover
So,
it.
Again,
That-
I
I
have a
pay them
driveway.
too. I
I'm
don't
doing this for
park.
other people. That's great, but you don't
get
have to have
paid
it on
for
a
it.
small residential
Order.
Yeah,
block.
that is definitely out of
Order.
order. Stanley, one second,
Yes,
you
can we
raise your
have
hand
order?
to answer. Let's not run the meeting this way because it'll just end up with lots of wasted time
Right.
and
Right.
less certainty of having a chance to actually speak.
So I just feel that it's just a total disrespect that these cars have been placed on the streets without the, as you hear now, we're having this discussion, and where it's becoming a little, agitated because we have been disrespected. We wasn't given a chance to discuss this. There wasn't any plans put in place. Okay, I understand that we're sharing, but we have to be fair in sharing. Okay, I understand we want bikes, but I always advocated that these bikes need to have insurance because they have accidents. You have bikes going both directions. You can't even cross the street if we're going to speak on that. Okay, so we have to be fair about everything we do, please. Okay, thank you.
Definitely a solid point there. And Marco, feel free to go ahead.
I'm curious. I'm curious for us to have this feedback on people for and against specific locations, but I'm also curious in whatever recommendation we make, could we also get the data on usage? Because it's one thing for 12 of us here to say it's a good or bad thing, but if a car is being used 25 times a day or something, like that speaks volumes to it being efficient more than a car that's just sitting there. I know I haven't moved my car in a couple of days, like it's not an efficient use of space, but if a car share is turning over, it's pretty efficient. So I'm curious if, I don't know if DOT would be able to provide us those numbers or if we have to get it from the specific car share companies, but I think it would help us make a more informed decision.
For sure. That would be useful for us to make a more informed decision. And I also think ideally what would have been the best course of action might have been for DOT to perhaps send the community boards an idea of the planned, car share locations and get some feedback before they actually, had that go live. But yeah, very good sentiment there too. You have 2 raised hands still, one from LaShawn, one from Cerveza. LaShawn, feel free to go ahead. All right, it's like you already spoke. Makes sense to lower that. Okay.
Sorry.
So
did you say something? I froze.
No, I saw you had your hand up, so I was just checking to see if you already spoke. If you wanted to speak a second time.
Well, if I could please, can I speak on the bus that's being rerouted? Because I know you stated that we're pressing for time and you wanted to limit the conversation to like 3 minutes.
Yeah, we did want to limit speaking time to about 2 minutes just to make sure everyone got a chance and we can move pretty smoothly. But I want to ask, are there any like pending motions anyone would like to make? Any pending or new motions that someone would like to make on the car share? No, not yet. If anyone has any plan they'd like to make for the car share motion being moved or ideally moved, relocations are a bit more of a net negative for the district and have less likelihood of being, getting followed through. But if anyone has any relocation plans that they already have, so that they'd like to, bring to the table, feel free to proceed.
Oh, so somebody could move for a resolution now? A
Yeah, we
motion?
can. You may.
But I don't think I can. I think it has to be a committee member, right?
Yeah. If any committee member wants to, if any committee member wants to move on a car share relocation, feel free. You can have a vote.
So it was DOT. Yes, it was DOT that made this arrangement. Am I correct to say so? Yes. I would like to make a motion that DOT.
Sorry, yeah, I believe so.
I would like to make a motion that DOT comes to our meeting and have the respect to explain what is taking place, because see, we don't know all of the blocks that they have placed these cars. I can only tell you of my block because I live here. And for what I'm hearing, they're spread out. And, so we can, make a sound decision. But I have to say this, though. Someone mentioned it. I don't know if it was Tara, but she had stated that these cars should be placed in commercial areas, not in residential. I'm swaying that way. I'll be honest with you, only because we've already been hit with tickets, cars getting tickets, and particularly the one that I had mentioned, that the young lady is handicapped, and she parked in the space without any indications, even after the indication, but that was easy for her to park because she's handicapped. Okay, so that they took a space from her, I have to say, because we all know that this person lives in this building, and we pretty much watch out for her and make it easy for her. Okay, so I'm for actually having these cars placed in commercial areas. So I would like to make a motion for the DOT to come in.
I'll second that motion.
Nick,
All right, please, can you repeat that?
Ethan, I think it's important to note that Felice's motion is a little different than what was proposed, if I understand what just happened. I thought you were looking for a motion for us to support the recommendation of the various relocation suggestions that have been made over the last 20 minutes. However, I like what Felice said better, because we don't know all of the places that DOT has put these. 1, 2, we don't know what mechanism was in place where these things started popping up. So before we start saying, hey, move this from here to there, I like the idea of DOT showing up and responding to how did this come about? What can be done better with the input from this committee and from the community. So I support Felice's recommendation over the one that you put forward. I second that.
Okay, so we have a second. Can we vote on this motion right now?
If I'm taking minutes, can I just have the exact wording of it for
Yes, please.
consistency? It sounds to me like Felice made a motion that DOT comes to our meeting and, I mean, to summarize, comes to our meeting and explains where all the car share spots are in our neighborhood, and perhaps reasoning as to why they were selected and how to go about relocating them if need be. Will that work?
That works. You got it.
Okay, good. Thanks for your input, Jeff, especially. Appreciate that. Because yeah, it does make a lot of sense for us to have an idea where all of the proposed spots are, so we can, maybe do it in one fell swoop as opposed to relocating, 2 or 3 at a time. Benny, feel free. Proceed.
Yeah, now regarding prevention, I mean, if we can get a map of proposed places, and I mean, if there's any way they can have, they would have to consult us and get permission from us before they actually start doing it. We can avoid a lot of the tension and, headaches that come afterwards when they start doing stuff. Now we have to go ahead and try to roll it back.
No, that's true. Typically, I think it's easier to ask for forgiveness and permission, especially when committee boards tend to meet once a month. And this things we vote on here go to the board, and that might end up taking, it might be done this month, might be done next month. So in a lot of the agencies, in the interest of time, they might try to move around this and get this stuff done quickly. But it is always good for us to try to push for that and at least prove that we can do things quickly, so we can be a part of that quick movement.
Hey,
Sure.
Ethan,
Yeah.
Ethan, let me just jump in real quick. Based on the
Yes.
history of this committee with DOT, I'm not real optimistic that you're going to be able to get them here next month or possibly even the month after. But I like what I think it was Benny just suggested, where the least that they should provide for our next meeting is the map to show where they all are and any other proposed changes. But ideally, if you could get them here, that would be what we would want.
Yeah, agreed. They may not appear, but at least we'll have some, some tools to use to base our feedback on and get some things moved, shifted, or even changed. LaShawn, feel free. You can proceed.
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, yes, it's after the fact, but I'm just curious to know why this wasn't brought to the committee in the first place. Like, how did it just happen? And, people wake up one morning and there are car show spots on their block, and it doesn't seem like so I would like to know what happened, how
Because I believe as far as many things are supposed to go through committee boards first, but a lot of them don't, because in a sense, it's easier for committee boards to function more as a corrective agent as opposed to permission-giving agent source. So it's easier and faster for them to just drop these things here and then kind of walk it back based on our feedback, or just based on our feedback. So I would think just because of the ease of all these things, because people are running fulfilling promises, getting things on a certain timeline, and agencies have different city level deadlines as far as we know to get things done. So they might not always think they have time to, stop for a board that meets once monthly. But it is definitely in our interest, and it's part of our job to step in and tell them what they need to change that they might not have ideally done right the first time.
you're very generous.
Thanks. All right, so can we vote on Felice's motion to get basically a report on the current and proposed car show spot locations for our district?
Yes, thank
Yeah. Do we have unanimous consent for that passing, or
Yeah.
do we have any objections here?
I agree.
I agree. I hope that the primary goal is to get a representative. Secondary, if we can't get a representative, get some documentation from DOT.
Felice, is that accurate?
Say that again?
I was saying Felice, is that accurate? Is it a motion to primarily
Oh,
bring in
absolutely, absolutely,
representatives? And
absolutely.
okay.
Jeff is on point.
All right, Paco, hopefully you can record that.
Hold
Yeah,
on
I
one
think I
second.
got that with the friendly amendment there.
Happens, I keep stopping and then I don't finish an email I was supposed to send.
All right.
Uh-oh,
Nicola.
Nicola, yes, I can hear you. Sorry, Nicola.
Well, she's
Nicola.
She's muted again. Are we gonna vote now?
Yeah. We have, it looks like we have unanimous consent. Does anyone object to this? No objections. All right, so that motion carries. Unanimous consent. Second agenda item we have here is the bus network redesign. Let's try and keep this succinct and moderately quick so we don't end up here until maybe 10 or 11 p.m. So if anyone has any notes or thoughts that they'd like to have either heard or voted on, feel free to proceed now after you raise your hand. Felice, you may go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna make it quick. So here I'm learning that the 49, the 48, and the 43, they're looking to alter or remove or change the route, which is not fair to us. I would like to know who in their infinite wisdom thought that that was a great idea, because these bus lines are very vital to our community. So we can have DOT explain that one as well. I mean, we didn't even agree to it. This is just something that developed. It just came out, and I learned, or the community learned. Okay, this was never brought to the table. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, definitely was not brought to community boards beforehand. And this is a good time to comment on that because we're currently going through the outreach periods for this redesign. So there is one particular plan that our district is currently trying to have changed. The 49, which usually runs on Bedford right now, I believe it's being discontinued from Bedford and roads and being moved to Nostrand and New York Avenue. And this has typically been an issue because there is a sizable, senior population in Ebbsfield, and they would be losing a bus line that runs on their main street, and it would essentially be the same direction they'd need would be at least 2 blocks away now, and it would have been, basically in front of their door. But let's hear the other opinions first before we vote on some of these. Andrew, you can proceed.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Echoing what Felice said for the last item on the agenda, as you may know, like last year, this was brought to, we actually had several small meetings in transportation about the bus redesign. And the previous chair basically was like, yeah, we should get DOT to talk to us and present exactly what's going on, the rationale for it. I mean, the B49 thing is one issue. We'd had a series of conversations with some of the other community boards, especially those south of us, about B41 and the Flatbush bus lane proposal, which I am vehemently in support of. But there are things that are confusing within their documentation that pertain to Community Board 9. For example, like I take the B44 a lot, and they're saying that there's going to be a B44 local, an SBS, and a limited. And that third option has not existed before. So is that, like, what does that mean? Having DOT explain car share, number one, but also actually explain their proposal for the bus redesign in this area would be quite useful. And I would like them to talk to us.
I want to also note that we can ask for more than one of these things at a time, because asking for information is what we're accustomed to doing, and that will essentially encourage agencies to go around us, because instead of giving feedback and asking for information, if we just kind of drag it out and ask for information, we end up taking less action and recommending less actions. So perhaps we can.
I might have misspoke. This is DOT and MTA that would need to work together to make some of these things happen, especially the B41 the Flatbush bus lane. But like I think what we are asking for is agencies to be accountable to our questions and
Mhm.
cooperative to provide feedback so that we can basically engender a response that makes sense, that doesn't seem out of proportion. And then they can
Yeah.
go and turn around and say, well, they didn't understand anything. We're just going to do it anyway.
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Maxine, you can go ahead.
Yes, hi. Ethan, I had a little problems understanding what you were saying. I don't know whether it's my computer or yours. The audio was not clear when you spoke about the B49, but I'll go ahead. From what I understand and looked at the redesign, please someone tell me if I am mistaken, that the B49, which is the Bedford Avenue bus, would be rerouted, as I thought you said, down Nostrand Avenue and up New York Avenue. So
Yes.
if I am correct, I'll go ahead. And that is,
You're correct.
my neighbors, my community, we're very upset about that. You know, Nostrand Avenue is a part of CB9. Yes, it's a commercial corridor. It's one of our most frequented and used commercial corridors. But at the same time, there are neighbors. You know, yes, I pay real estate taxes between Nostrand and Rogers Avenue. And we're very concerned with everything being dumped on Nostrand Avenue. Which takes me back to car share. Come on now, $1 a day, we subsidizing private firms. But are you still hearing me?
Yeah, I'm still hearing you.
Okay, so going
I'm
ahead,
currently-
why should the people that live between Bedford and Washington have to walk all the way over to Nostrand Avenue, leave the bus where it is? We already have a bus coming down Nostrand. Do we need two? It is completely dense. It's oversaturated. There's too much going on Nostrand Avenue between pop-up illegal smoke shops, and I could go on. But again, myself and all of my neighbors very upset about that. So if we could recommend to leave it, and I ideally everyone agrees with me, to leave the B49 on Bedford Avenue. Why should, again, I don't want to repeat myself. We already have a bus.
Okay.
Thank you guys for listening.
You're welcome. It sounds like, there might be some interest in a motion here to recommend leaving it on Bedford and Rogers. And perhaps even having them explain what the rationale was for moving it across 2 blocks. Would anyone like to move to recommend something like that to MTA and DOT? Marco?
Yeah, so I would not support that. I mean, we can make that motion. I would not support it, but I would say, I mean, I understand the reason that some people would be opposed, but like I went to a few of the meetings and it's primarily, it seemed like they wanted to make use of the existing bus lanes, like where buses can move faster. Yes, we do have a bus, the B49. I take it I've taken it many times, but a bus that exists on a street that is stuck in traffic is not as effective as a bus that has a bus only lane and could move at a faster clip. So I think their reasoning, or at least the reasoning I heard from MTA and DOT meetings, was that they want to make better use and have more buses on the bus only lanes on both Rogers and Nostrand.
Okay, that's a good rationale.
I don't understand that rationale. There's a bus lane. The bus is currently utilized in Bedford Avenue. I don't understand that. It went completely over my head. Could someone explain that?
Bedford doesn't have a bus
Then put a
lane.
bus lane. I mean, why, if the dense and the traffic, it is overutilized Nostrand Avenue. Nostrand Avenue, to try and move on Nostrand Avenue is impossible. Buses or cars or your bicycles. You can't move on Nostrand Avenue. There's too many things on Nostrand Avenue. Come on now, leave it on Bedford Avenue. And again, I would think my neighbors and would agree. Why should they have to walk all the way over to Nostrand Avenue? We seniors, I can barely walk. Put a bus lane. It was functioning fine. It was absolutely fine. No, we
Quick
don't want
notes
to
here.
run Nostrand
A
Avenue.
couple of quick notes, Maxine. There currently in our district there isn't at least for a good chunk of Bedford Avenue, there isn't a bus only lane on that avenue right now. So buses and, you know, private vehicles have to share the travel lanes. And just to add in another piece of context, yes, while it's good for buses to be able to move quickly and not, you know, be subject to private traffic, it's also, people also need to get to these buses, and moving them away from people who are potentially able, maybe a little bit less able to travel far distances, might not be in the ease of, you know, all New Yorkers in the area. But Jeff, feel free to proceed.
I don't know that I have a whole bunch to add. I think it was, I can't remember the gentleman's name who mentioned that we did tackle this conversation last year. I don't know if we need the assistance of any elected officials, but the MTA has been doing this across the city, right? They've done it in the Bronx already, they've done it in Queens, and I believe Staten Island. I think this is bigger than the community board's resistance alone to disrupt that plan that's currently on everybody's screen. I've heard CV8 express supported these changes regardless of the fact that there were people who had mobility issues and would now have to walk 2 or 3 blocks. It was a very cold-hearted meeting where it almost they were throwing their seniors under the proverbial bus. They really didn't care. And I don't think that here in CV9, we want to take approach. So this may be something that we need to call in some help if we expect to see a change. Because for people to walk from anywhere on Sullivan and Bedford, or if you were taking the 49 and you're walking all the way over to New York or to Nostrand, that's ridiculous. All right, and the MTA knows this, they've been told it, but unless we get some help, I don't think we're going to be able to change their minds.
Okay. Gavity, so you want to potentially, you may want to add in the assistance of an elected official on this one. Okay. Felice, recognize you can go ahead.
I think Tara is before me. I'll wait for
Oh.
her and then I'll say something.
Sorry, you were ahead of her on my screen. Sorry, go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize Maxine's point that Nostrand Avenue is quite congested, and there's a new, very, very large development that's going to go there. That's going to have a grocery store. That's going to add to the congestion. It's congested, and it's very difficult to get through there with a vehicle, a bike, anything. So Bedford Avenue is pretty efficient, and the buses do go down there, and I do take that bus. And what I noticed in particular is with the Tivoli Towers and Ebbets Field, there is a very, very large senior population that should be able to age in place. And it's going to be, I see them with the walkers going, trying to get to the bus now. And it's challenging for them to go all the way to Nostrand. Those are long blocks. And I believe it'd be cruel to not stand up for our senior population with that particular bus. It's efficient. It goes all the way down Bedford. It goes to the hospitals. It goes to the beach. You can get so many places. It goes all the way to Williamsburg. So I think I would like to see a resolution to have that stay in place for our seniors. And just to let you guys know, when my committee, the environmental protection, we did that resolution for a moratorium on the 5Gs, and that has been very effective and useful to have. I was able to go to a city council hearing and present that, I was able to present it in person to city council members that were on the communications committee. I was able to bring that to Rita Joseph, Yvette Clark, Crystal. You know, when you have a document that says something that, you know, as a community board, we're merely, you know, advisory. It's not like we're passing laws or anything here, but our voices are very effective when we can work together to have something to present like that. And I spent quite a bit of summertime presenting that, and I would encourage you all to think about, you know, creating documents like that and presenting them to the board, because they're effective, you know. So I just want to encourage everyone. Thank you.
Please, feel free.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Okay, very good. All right, so Tara, she's right with that moratorium, but let me just add, the 49 bus does go all the way to Manhattan Beach, right there. Okay, and I've spoken to a few of these busmen, and they suggested, why can't they just add another bus? Why do they have to take away? I said, that's a good suggestion there. Okay. It will be very much detrimental to remove this 49 bus. As I stated, I was raised here. Okay, so everything that's here has been vital, very vital to us. The 48 bus was one of the buses that was jeopardized as well. And what we did, we got 4,000 signatures, and we brought it to, at that time, Marty Markowitz. He was the Brooklyn Borough president, and some other official. I don't know if it was James Davis at the time, but it worked. Okay, and the bus 48 stayed with us. Okay, because they did not want to lose these constituencies. Okay, so that's another way to go. So we have to fight. We have to fight for this, because it does not make any sense. Just put another bus line there, as the busmen would say to me, because I speak to them every morning, and they're telling me it's just not the 49. You know, they're looking at the 43, the 40, the 44, I think that was mentioned, 48, you know, even the 41. Okay. So, you know, what is it, that they have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it? Okay, because we sure can give them some ideas. Thank you.
You're welcome. Valerie, feel free to go ahead.
Hi. I've brought this up a number of times at some of the other meetings with regard to the traffic. I can understand the premise of them changing the Bedford Avenue bus over to Nostrand Avenue, because they have the belief that because they already have the designated bus lanes, that it would be a smoother flow of traffic going down. But I believe that that's not the real issue. The real issue is the city has allowed so many different forms of transportation to include the Lyfts, the Ubers, the this, the that, to take up the space that we have that we don't get any more of. We only have so many roads, and that's it. But we want to keep introducing more and more and more things on the limited amount of roads that we have. We say that there are a lot of cars. Well, do we have all these Lyfts? Do we have all these Ubers? Do we have all these other things before? No, you had a little gypsy cab, you had a little yellow cab in some areas, because in our area, we really didn't have that many yellow cabs coming through. I'm saying that we need to look at, what is the big transportation plan? What are we really doing here? Are we saying, oh, let's move it over to the other area so that we can have a easier flow of traffic? But who's that really benefiting? You know, the seniors, and it doesn't have to just to be the seniors. What about somebody that has a physical challenge that cannot walk that far to go over to that particular area to catch the bus, and then have to come back and walk so far to get back to where they live? I believe that we have introduced too many things on the roads, too many types of vehicles that are taking up all this space. And then it's like, oh, well, we got to do something else. No, maybe you have to look at something different, because how many people are calling DOT saying, I can't get to my doctor's appointment because there's so much traffic on Bedford Avenue? we know as New Yorkers that, okay, it might be a little slow during certain times of day, that we leave a little earlier, that we do a little bit more to be able to get to our appointed destination. So I think that we really need to look at what we're doing as we introducing more and more and more things to the road. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have anyone willing to make any motions on the B49 issue right now? If you do, feel free to have the floor and announce.
Do you feel a moratorium would be the thing to do, or would you feel that reaching out to the electees, okay, because they're going to want to run again, as Jeff suggested, you know, is a vehicle to use?
The best vehicle would be a combination of the two. We can send a recommendation. We can draft a recommendation to leave the 49 where it is on Bedford, and at the same time reach out to elected officials and have them support us on that.
I definitely support that action, the moratorium and reaching out to the elected officials.
Felicia, you want to move to have that done?
I'd support it as well.
I concur.
All right, so we have a second. All right. Do we have anyone else in favor?
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
You have any objections? Seems like we do not. Looks like this passes by unanimous consent. Paco, hope you can record that as well.
Yep.
And this would bring us to our next item on the agenda, which would be city bike locations. Does anyone have any notes or any comments on this they'd like to bring up beforehand? You know, you raised hands. Tara, are you trying to speak, or did you just not lower your hand from last time?
So sorry, I didn't put it back down.
It's okay.
Thank you.
It's okay, it
everyone.
happens. Andrew, would you like to speak and go ahead?
Hi, sorry, to go back to the bus, I'm so sorry. To go back to the bus thing, less than 2 minutes. Is it possible to put together some form of motion to say like, this community board 9 stands to work with community boards 14 and 18, where the Flatbush B41 route goes through, and as well, like we want to support these other community boards and the borough president to make the B41 and the Flatbush corridor a more bus-friendly network, like a more bus-friendly corridor. Like there have been tons of meetings about this as well in the past, and it seems to be the thing that's been forgotten. B49 is loved and loved, but B41 is also significant and goes through our community board. Okay, that's it.
Do we have anyone here willing to move on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't even quite understand what was stated.
I believe Angie wanted to see if there's interest in moving to.
We had a couple of meetings. We had, yeah, the
Yeah, go
last
ahead.
year and the year before that, there'd been a couple of meetings about the B41 as well, because the B41 crawls on. It is the slowest bus in Brooklyn. It is the only one that is like less than 5 miles an hour outside of rush hour. It's so slow. And other community boards, I think Moose is still here. Like we've been talking to community boards 14 and 18. DOT had approached us and MTA had approached us in years past to improve this corridor. And I don't want to see this die by the wayside while they're doing a bus redesign. This is the perfect time to say, yes, we support the hardening of infrastructure to make bus lanes a priority here. Does that clarify that at all?
Yes, it does, especially when they have, as Valerie stated, made provisions for other vehicles and things to run along that line, which makes it condensed and very difficult to run through. But we have to keep in mind in doing so, maybe we want to keep a time frame for that to take place because we are sharing everything, but that it makes sense.
So is that,
Is
is that a no, is that yes?
Is that the Flatbush bus?
Yes.
Yeah, the 41 is that.
Oh, but they have that whole plan where it's gonna, they're making that whole lane, the painted lane, that's gonna.
Are they?
Yes, that's happening. I taught Rita Joseph, I spoke to her about it. It's happening. For sure it's happening. They're gonna
It's
do
not
a
in the,
painted
it's not in the
lane.
bus redesign network.
But regardless,
It's
though, are
gonna
we
be
as
a-
a board,
It's
are
a
we as a
separate
committee willing
project
to
because it's
work with
DOT.
CB 14?
That's a
Yes, we-
DOT plan. It's not MTA. Bus redesign is being led by MTA. The bus lane is, I think, being driven by DOT. So it's a separate
And-
project and there have been separate meetings about it.
And Andrew, are there any specific issues that you like CB9 to potentially work with your district on?
I live here. This is what. Sorry, hi. Hi,
Sorry, I
I'm
mean-
Andrew. I live on Rogers. This is my district.
Okay, sorry, my mistake.
I might be
the
losing the
other
thread because
neighboring
it's approaching my bedtime, so I will table this conversation.
Okay, makes sense. Understood. Benny, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, I had an idea regarding the city bike locations. Well, but first of all, I think it would be, maybe we can utilize bus stops for these locations, because the bus stops, take up a quarter of a block, and most of the, I mean, they have the shelter, where the bus, in front of the bus, but the rest of the sidewalk area up until like the corner is unutilized space, and it's a no parking zone anyway. So I think we can, it'd be a good idea to maybe move the city bike locations to bus stops, and that way, we can utilize the sidewalk area for both the bus stop as well as the city bike. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I see that, like, Kingston Avenue, where I frequent a lot, they have these 20 station bike stations, and I've never seen them more than half full. So I don't think that they really need such large or long bike stations, in on most of these areas. So I mean, if you I mean, if you move them into the bus station, bus stop areas, I mean, also, you don't have to make them so long. You can make them, as long as needed based on, usage. That's just my idea.
Okay. Zach, any comments? You can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we're talking about location specifically. I just got a city bike rack across the street for me. I can throw a rock and hit it. I wouldn't throw a rock, but I could, on Rogers and Lincoln, and I love it. It's super convenient. I use it all the time. So if we're taking positive feedback, I have that. Am I allowed to respond to anything Benny said? I don't want to break the rules.
No, yeah, you can respond.
Okay, cool. So I think putting them on sidewalks is okay in some places, but a lot of places around, especially where I live, sidewalk space is already at a premium. Like, I'm already like shifting over to let people go by where I like, there's not enough space for like 3 people abreast on many sidewalks around me. So I would be a bit concerned. I want to make sure I understood like what space is being used. And the other thing is, just like real quick, seeing bikes on the rack means that they're usable. If there are no bikes there, then it's not it's not helpful for anybody. So there does need to always be bikes for it to be a usable rack to take bikes and go with them. And I think everyone's going to see things at different times of like more bikes, less bikes. And I think Paco said something similar to like with the car share. Getting the data on how many are being used in the turnover and stuff, I think is going to be an important, if not a necessary, like start to the conversation of if they're the right size, because we're all going to see different things based on when we're walking by and what time of day they tend to be busiest. So I would love to see that data if we want to have that kind of discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, and it would also be great for us to get that data especially if we're doing it alongside of some kind of other advisory action or before. Valerie, feel free to proceed.
Quickly with regard to the data, it seems like with the different projects that we're looking at, the zip car, the bike lanes, or the bike installation of the bike stations for City Bike, while I believe that that's been a real popular program and it's been working well, it seems like they put the stations up first and then now we're looking at the data. What is the current data showing that there's a need in certain areas for more stations prior to the installations? Because once they put them up there, are they really going to take them down? I haven't seen too many of the installations being removed as a result of low usage. And I guess the indication that the bikes are there, that they're available to use. And of course, it's going to be different times a day because we're not all up 24 hours a day walking by the City Bike installation to see whether or not they're using them. But I believe that prior to putting in, what's the current data? What are the zip codes, the most popular areas in which the stations should be installed, and the number of slots that are available? So I think that we're like behind, we're doing stuff backwards. Instead of getting the data up front, we're like, oh, let's put it in. And then, oh, okay, well, let's take a look at it. And then are they really taking them down once they put them up? No. So I'm not sure what the real solution is. And again, what's the money part? Who's getting paid? How many people is getting paid off the deal? And how is this money being refiltered into the community to improve certain things, maybe lighting on the streets, maybe better sidewalks or certain things? What are they doing with the money and how is the community benefiting outside of the people just riding the bikes? What about the non-bike riders? What about the seniors? What's happening? Are they reinvesting any of the money that they're getting into the community? Thank you.
It would be important for us to get that data. First things first, it would be good for us to get that, especially when it comes to justifying any decisions we make, whether it's removing or perhaps even requesting new locations. Paco, feel free.
Well, I had two things. One was just a question on Valerie's comment there. Well, first of all, I've seen them move City Bike stations before. Maybe it doesn't happen often, but I think it's largely because the program is wildly successful, and I guess hopefully they do enough monitoring. But they do move stations and they do expand stations sometimes, or just move stations entirely. The stations are meant to be movable when there's large events. Sometimes they've moved them as well, or they'll make them offline. But when you were asking, I know, it's good to always get data, but you were saying like, what's the data like before the stations go in? Like, what would that be data of? Like, no one's using the bikes when they're not there, and City Bike's been around for over 10 years now. Like, I think it's it's new to our neighborhood. I mean, we've had meetings for years about it, and the program itself is there. So I think citywide, they just can see that there is a general desire for it, and they're testing it out. I think data after the fact makes perfect sense. And if a station is not being used, then sure, let's move it or lose it. But I guess I'm just confused by your question there of getting the data ahead of time.
My question is, at the beginning of the installation of the stations, they had meetings about the people that were interested in having a City Bike in their particular neighborhood, even before that they were there. So now I'm saying, are they still gathering that data? Are they still going out to the public asking that a need for the particular installations or the number of slots that they need? Because when they first put them in, they didn't just put them in. I remember going to meetings. I remember that they had plots and they had streets and they had questions and they had town halls and things with regard to the installation of the City Bike station. So I'm saying, is there any data like right now? Is there data that's showing that, for example, I'm just making it up because I don't know if there's a station right there, that on the station on Empire Boulevard and Rogers Avenue, we're noticing that there's 75 rentals every hour. I'm just making it up. Versus on Rogers Avenue and Lincoln, there's only 3 rentals. So would that show that there's a more need for another bike or another installation in that area versus in another location where they're not having as much activity in that particular area? Has there been an increase? Because, you know, certain things, you don't you do surveys to see what's needed? You don't just put stuff in and then say, okay, let's wait and see what the data is. Because, you know, to me, that's a waste of resources if you're not finding out ahead of time, you know, what is the need for certain things. So that's what my question was. Is there data that's showing right now, today, as we speak, that in certain areas, in certain blocks, in certain communities, that there's an overwhelming need or overwhelming data to show the number of rentals per day, per hour, per week, per month to warrant a X amount of stations or slots being available? And if that's the case, are the current slots, because see, I don't ride the city bike, so I don't know, and I haven't seen any being moved because I'm not like out there like that. So those people that use the city bikes, and especially you, Paco, you're a bike rider, so you probably have more interest in the slots than I do. But I'm just saying, prior to, what's the data? When I'm buying my refrigerator, when I'm doing certain things, when I'm buying a high ticket item, I'm doing my research. I'm looking to see what's the most popular, what's the most economical, what's the most beneficial to me. I don't just buy the refrigerator and say, oh, that wasn't the one I wanted, so I'm gonna take it back. So I'm just saying, is there data to show right now the frequency in the neighborhoods that will warrant additional stations? That's what I'm saying.
Even if there isn't data right now, it is still
You
our
can-
job to request
Do you
and get
understand
that
it
data.
now?
There's data. You can go on open data and find by neighborhood and by day, if you'd like.
Okay, so cool. So that was my thing. So before we put more in, I'm saying, let's just look at the current data that's available so that we can make a wise decision, not just putting them out. Because as I've agreed that this has been a popular program. I'm not saying not put them in. I'm just saying, let's just take a look and see what's necessary to put them in and the positions, whether it's in the street or on the sidewalk. That's my thing. I'm not telling you not to put them in. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, let's just do our homework. Unlike what we didn't do with the zip cars. They just put them in there. They just put the selections up and they didn't do it. So you're holding your face. You okay over there? You all right? You sleepy? Something going on?
For Valerie, to an quick note on that, they did get data on the zip car spots and they did plan those out. They had a multi-year pilot program that is now graduated to a fully implemented car share program. So they did that data. The thing is, they don't always share their progress with us. And they won't do that if we don't take as much action as we actually can. If we just sit here dormant and look for information and, you know, not make suggestions, they will continue to, you know, skirt us and, you know, get their data, do their research and take their actions without
Okay, I
letting us
concur,
know.
but here on the block, I don't remember them saying anything to the people that actually live in the community. Well, I can't say it in any other community. I can say on my block, no one was aware, no one got any information. No one was a part of the data pool to say whether they wanted it or not. So I'm not sure how that unfolded.
And you're absolutely right. The same thing occurred on my block, and it's 2 blocks here that it's on.
Andrew, feel free to proceed. You raised your hand. You've been waiting for a while. You can go.
Okay,
on.
I'm so sorry. I just put that out this.
No, I also interrupted you a little bit, so I apologize. Could I ask, just point blank, can you clarify why this is on the agenda? To my knowledge, our community board was part of phase 2 and phase 3, which are complete. The rollout is done. What is the goal? What information are you trying to solicit from us?
So it's on the agenda mainly because there have been quite a few reports of people in the area either wanting relocated city bike racks or even some that might be requested or removed. I wanted to have a specialized time for us to get this taken care of and perhaps move on from this issue.
Are there specific instances that we were voting on? Like, I also live on Rogers and Lincoln, and I love that bike rack. Like, I use it probably twice a day. Can I double that? Like, what is the parameters that we're using? Oh, Oh my gosh, before I forget, I wanted to respond to something that I think Benny had said. Back in the scoping phase of phase 2, we had tried to ask MTA to share city bike racks on the ocean side of like the B and the Q stop, where there's that big pavement. And they were like, point blank, we will never put any city bike infrastructure on our parking or on our parcel, which includes like bus lanes or bus shelters. So while it may or may not be a good idea, I think as soon as you get interagency requirements to like co-locate things, dead in the water. That's what we've seen historically. And then the other thing that I feel like I'm living in the twilight zone here a little bit. Like, we're not taking away spots. Like, one car vehicle by the current design standards from City Bike becomes 8 bike spots. That is a net gain of 7 places for people to use a vehicle. I don't understand, and maybe I'm not meant to understand the frustration. I think it's, you know, I don't know why we're asking for City Bike to benefit the community when, you know, my neighbor who owns a sign company parks his car for 4 days a week in front of my building, and I can't get to the bus shelter there. What benefit is his car providing for the community? Like, I don't understand why we're asking City Bike to do so much more when it is already acting phenomenally for a bike share service in the city. I'm frustrated with the frustration, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah, I got that. There's quite a bit of that in some districts because there are, you know, varying biking populations. Some people feel like it's not really accessible to them. And some people are, you know, elderly, some people are unable to ride and don't see it as a
a car parked 5 days a week does not benefit the elderly. It does not benefit bus riders. It does not benefit anybody. Why should we be asking bike sharing infrastructure to support this? Like,
also a fair point.
I get, like, I would maybe accept it if it was a criticism of Access-a-Ride, but it's like, it's a whatever. I'm gonna be quiet.
And I think you
Expedite the
might at
meeting.
this point, because what happens is everybody makes their selection of what type of transportation that they want. I'm just looking at, for me, what is the money part of the whole deal? Who is profiting? Who's benefiting from this particular feature? Now, okay, fine, no problem. If you don't
Who's
want to
benefit?
have a
Lyft
car,
is about to go
hold
broke.
on, sir. I'll let you talk. You decide that you want to ride the bike, you want to ride City Bike, that's fine. That's your choice. You do that, you make that happen. But meanwhile, other people have chosen to drive the car. See, my whole thing is, I don't care whether the parking space is available or not, because I have a garage, so I could park my car in the garage. So I'm not impacting anything that's happening to you or your spot or the person that's parking in front of their your building. But again, we're looking at a city that was developed and these things weren't taken into consideration, nor as we're moving forward in our thinking of how we're looking at our cities. I think Jeffrey Graham, Jeff sent an article about the cities that have, I can't remember what the name of it was, but they had a lot of the businesses and a lot of the things in a specific location so that you didn't have to go so far. Your grocery store was right there. Your medical providers were right there. Our city and the way it's designed, that you have to kind of go a little ways to get to certain things. So I'm saying that because you decided you want to ride the bike, that's up to you. That's up to you. That's fine. If this is your mode of transportation, that's fine. But we all have to live somehow together. We all have to cooperate together. We all have to do things here together. Now, this is just my opinion that somehow we have to be cooperative and respect the mode of transportation. Because at first I wasn't really thrilled about City Bike, but I'm seeing how it's benefiting some people who choose not to use another form of transportation, and it's to their advantage. So then they use it, that's fine. It's happy and it's working for them. But I'm just saying that we
Isn't
need
there
to
a
look
queue?
at
I'm sorry, we're
everything.
using hands. What?
Apparently not at this point. So I'm just
Okay.
gonna
Because I know
defer
Felice and
back
Maxine have been waiting for a while, and now we're
Okay,
going back
I'm
and
sure.
forth.
Okay, well,
I
I'll just
appreciate-
end
thank
my conversation, but I just wanted to respond to the comment. So I don't want to go back through banter tonight because it's not really being productive. But I just say everyone should be considerate of each person's form of transportation, their particular choice. Thank you.
Maxine,
My
you want to go
address.
ahead? Because I want to,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, please go
Okay.
ahead. I don't want to be bitter.
Okay. Maxine, you want to go ahead? Because I would like to conclude if I could, please.
Okay,
So we're not here
thank
any
you,
further.
Felice. I just want to say that I thought Valerie was very clear in that the question was, you know, sometimes in retrospect, your plans did not work out. And her point was, yeah, wildly popular, but I suspect in some neighborhoods, it would really be, I haven't seen the data. Obviously, everyone says it's all over the place. They're so wildly popular. But aside from that, and I'll have to repeat that, I suspect that it is wildly popular in some areas. And I like to readjust that for the areas that are not. And no, it is not just seniors, but it is seniors, okay, that need their cars for mobility purposes. And then there's work-related reasons to have a car. People use their car as a profession, as to make a living. And I don't see people park. I don't know what you mean that they park 5 days a week. That's not true. There's alternate side of the street parking. They move and use their car appropriately when necessary. One more point I'd like to make is that I just recently got my side view mirror knocked off by a bicycle. And I have to piggyback off Jeff, and my concern, and many of our concerns may not be this transportation committee, but very well may be the police department and as an enforcement issue. And that is bicycles going the wrong way. They do not follow the rules of the law. What happened to the rule of law? They go through lights, they squeeze through. Again, knocked my passenger side mirror off. And are they registered? Who do I sue? There are a lot of issues with bicycles. Come on now, we all see it, all up on the sidewalks. And I go back to the street. They do not follow traffic laws. What is that? So my question, and this is not the Twilight Zone, we are all here together to make some improvements in our community. So my question is that an enforcement issue? I mean, how do we deal with that? Should we certainly invite the 7-1 precinct to transportation and say, ticket those bicycles? They are supposed to follow. I was an avid a bicycle, and I've always put my left hand out if I was going to turn and waited for the lights. So how do we handle that? Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. Please.
Do you want Zach to speak? Because I would like to speak, but make it, you know, conclusive, because it's really time to go. If it's okay with you.
It is. Yeah, this is the last issue. We're wrapping up here, and soon we're gonna adjourn. But Zach, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. I'll be really quick. As long as we're talking about data and what helps people, I would love to know the percent of car owners in our CB9, and also how many street parking spots there are, and how many like street parking spot effective bike space, like amount of bike spaces there are. For instance, like a city bike rack might be like 2 or 3 spots. It is my belief that these numbers would not bear out like a significant impact on the number of spots compared to the number of spots available. Like there are 80 to 100 parking spots in my street alone, and there are no bike spots. Like, come on, that's kind of silly. But you know, again, we can get the data. I think it's like 50%-ish of people in RCB own a car. And yet like 95% of our curb space is car parking. So like that's not helping those 50%. And then like my grandparents can't drive. They're too old. So I don't think we should even also say like all elderly people benefit from cars. It's just not true. And thank you for your time. I don't want to keep
You're
rambling.
welcome, Zach. Also a very fair point. Felice, feel free to proceed.
Okay, so I want to conclude by saying this. I was with Valerie when we had those sessions and forums to discuss where these
city bikes would be placed, and they were very considerate. And it was strategically placed where we all was pleased and worked well with it. We have to remember this is, as Valerie put it too, not just America or the United States. It's not Europe where, you know, you do have space, and it was geared for that. And also Jeffy brought out a point and also an illustration of this. Maxine, she's also right in what she's saying. And I hear you too, Zach, where you say that your parents are old and they don't drive, understandably, but they have to get some sort of car lift, yes? What I'm trying to say is this: we have to share, okay? And in the sharing, we have to, you know, collaborate, discuss things, see what fits us best, okay? So I would like to make a motion to say, I would like to make a motion to get the data and the city bike location and their usage. I would like that, okay? Because that will be a great way of determining, you know, where, you know, it's best, you know, being used.
A
Because
second?
when it came, I'm sorry?
Asking if you had a second. We can continue though.
Okay, because when they first did the sessions and the survey, we stated that we wanted it in Prospect Park. We stated that we wanted it on Montgomery and also show them the area. Okay, so, you know, so that we don't have this conflict, because we need to work cohesively. You know, we have to understand, you know, like I said, the location and the usage. You know, where is it being used the most? You know, the location, is it conducive and convenient for everyone? So we don't have what we're having right now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that motion to get the data of city bike usage and usage by site sent to us?
I second that motion.
All right. Do we have any other votes in favor of this motion? Do we have any opposing votes for this motion? Do we have unanimous consent?
I concur.
Point of information, the data, just like Google it, like the data is available.
That's true.
Like I just Googled it, like I could see every single trip. So, I mean, we can ask with our great luck getting DOT to appear magically after never, like, we can ask them to collate an Excel sheet, but we can also just Google it ourselves and look, I think. I mean, we can make it our own little side project to pinpoint specific spots within CB9 if there's a question about one, but the data, I'm seeing it as of August 14th, 2023. It looks like they update monthly. Maybe tomorrow will be the September one, but I mean, I just don't want to waste time. So I would not support a motion to look for something that's very easily found.
Okay, so then maybe you could share the link that you're looking at with people, because you have to remember that people have different expertise and capabilities, and they may not know where you found the site. People, you know, use technology differently, so just respect each other. You know, if you found it, it's fine to share it with people, but don't be condescending about it.
I think that's a great point. I'll send it to the district office. And someone maybe isn't reading it or something like that, or doesn't have access. Not everyone has internet capability, but I just don't want to ask an agency to do something that is already done.
Okay, that's a fair point, Paco, but I also want to add that it's a habit that while it's good to be proactive and get data on our own, there are people who are able to send that data to us all, and especially since there may be cases when data we ask for is publicly available but not easy to find, which, you know, would always be useful for someone whose job it is to send this out to community boards to actually do that and make sure that the people here don't have to spend excessive amounts of time, not that you did, but, you know, finding data that might be stored somewhere on the internet.
Correct. And perhaps there are locations that people want the bike, and perhaps there are locations where they don't want the bike. So to, reevaluate and see what is the proper usage, I don't see anything wrong with that. Were
Are
you
you
able to hear
asking,
me?
are you
Were you able
asking
to hear
DOT
me?
to go back to like 2015, 2016 and do scoping meetings again?
No, I don't see it as a request for that. It would essentially be like a one-time request for usage of some of these.
Can we also get usage data on like how often cars are moved in my neighborhood and like how many of them have paper plates or are plates out of state or like aren't moved like except like
I
once a
don't know.
month?
I don't
Like that
know.
doesn't, I feel like if we're gonna get data like on one to be really
I don't
be like
know. I
magnifying
don't know if
glass
you
on it,
can-
like the other makes sense too, considering 100 parking spots on every block compared to like
I don't.
2 spots
I
worth
don't
of
know.
bikes every like 6 blocks.
The
I
parking
don't know if
spots
you're
aren't
trying to
really-
be, I'm sorry. I don't know if he was trying to be facetious, but that comes from sanitation. I'm just trying to understand, where are we with this? I mean, what was wrong with the motion with asking to get the data for city by locations and usage? As I mentioned, maybe there are people that want bikes there, or maybe there are people that don't want it. Maybe they want to, change things up, tweak it a little bit, What is wrong with that request? I'm trying to understand.
My
And
perhaps
since you brought
unfair
it up about-
inference.
And since
Sorry.
you brought up about about the cars on the street and the paper plates, that's a good point that you're bringing up, because that's something that we really need to look at. These paper plates that are there that are not really plates, and that there's a possibility that there's no insurance and different things like that. So if by chance a pedestrian, a bike rider, or someone gets involved in an accident, this person may not have the appropriate documentation that would support paying for the injury that any of us on this call that could incur as a result of that. We are not getting our streets swept and clean because some of these cars are not being moved. So I'm not, trying to be tit for tat here, but the point that you brought up was clear. I'm not sure if you were being facetious when you brought it up, but these are real concerns that I'm having on my block. Some of these people are leaving cars on the block. They're being abandoned. The cars are flat. We have to now go through determination whether these cars are trash, meaning that sanitation has to remove them, or that the police department has to take enforcement action. So things that we're bringing up here, we might be
Police
flippant when we're
department.
saying this, but there are real issues that we as a transportation committee might need to look at in the totality of all of the things that we deal with. So thank you for bringing that up, and maybe you can take the lead on that.
And when you speak of cleaning, the bikes that are on the street that the sanitation people have a problem with cleaning around, that's another issue that they bring up. Like I said, I'm in the union, so a lot of these issues do come up.
All right, so in the interest of time, we definitely should finish voting on this motion. And we can proceed with any other requests afterward. So Felice, it was your motion. You had 1 second. Is Benny, I believe?
Yes, sir. You want me to repeat that motion?
Yeah, feel free to repeat it.
Yes, sir. I said, I would like to make a motion to get the data of the city bikes location and usage.
Is there any time
the
you'd like to have
locations.
that report for? Would you like to have a report?
If we
This is
can have
based
it
on-
for the next meeting, that would be great, because we would like to resolve a lot of these things, but that would be great if we could.
Okay, so perhaps a comparative sheet of the most versus least used, locations over a period of any past time.
Like 12 months.
Last 12 months, okay. So we have some objections. Paco, I believe you are one of the objections on this one.
Yeah, I don't think it, yes, I would object.
Okay, Valerie, are you for or against this?
I'm for this, since this was on the agenda, Was it on the agenda for new city bike stations? So if it's for new city bike stations in consideration for the popularity of this particular program, I think that we could even take a look at it. And if Paco has an opportunity, if he could, to share it so that we won't be it won't be a laborious thing for DOT to do, then, you know, we could take a look at it because it was on the agenda for something. And so if we're trying to be considerate of the popularity of this particular program, then, you know, I believe that the data should be available to discuss if we're recommending new sites.
Well, the data in this case can serve either course of action. Based on what we see, it can support either adding new locations, removing them. It could very likely serve either one. And as a note to Paco, and to the community in general, the committee in general too, just want to note that getting data, even though we can Google it ourselves, it's still important to have this on the record so that it can be known what we're looking at, why we're looking at it, and essentially what we're doing. If we just sit home and Google it and send the email around to folks, it's not going to show that we're very active, regardless.
So I say I agree to get the data from DOT if it's going to strengthen our position as we make recommendations for different programming of the city bike installations.
Okay. We have any
And what, I would like to know, what was the 12 months for? What was that?
So that we can see the usage of the city bikes that are in our particular areas. Whether, again, I'm just making it up, if the Empire and Rogers Avenue location is more popular than Rogers Avenue and Fenimore Street, to show, you know, what areas are most popular and that has the most activity and the most action. Because there's certain areas that certain things are happening more, you know, just like
we have to move on.
Okay.
Okay, but
at 10 o'clock,
in
we
that,
have to move on.
Yep.
No, I'm just saying,
Just one last
ideally,
thing.
if you can end the meeting at around 10, we'll be in a good spot. Let's try to move quickly here.
Okay. So one last thing, by stretching it to 12 months, that means there will be no additional bikes added and no bikes taken away. Everything will be at standstill.
So this is a data request, not a moratorium.
I see. Because I was just trying to understand what were the 12 months for.
So that was just for the window of data that we're asking for.
It's the period of study, Felice. It's that's all. We have to.
Will it take 12 months to do?
No, it's a period of time.
No, we're looking at data from the past 12 months in this one.
Oh, I see. The past 12 months. Okay, very good, very good, very good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Folks, I have to drop off. Are we finished? If not, I will have to join you next month.
Okay, we are almost finished here. Just looking to get your vote, Jeff, as well as Stanley's and Callista's. You support this motion?
Yes.
All right. We do have a majority here, I believe. But just for just a prediction, Stanley?
I think we lost Callista already. I don't see it.
Yeah, you did.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. Stanley. Did you vote on this one? You support this motion?
Are we all in
Stanley is-
agreement to this? I'm sorry. Are we all in agreement to this?
Looks like we only have one in opposition here, so I believe this motion does carry. All right, so Parker, please record that in the minutes, and we can essentially vote at this point. Can we adjourn by unanimous consent?
What did you say, Ethan?
No, I was saying we clearly have a majority for that last motion. I believe it carries, and I was just going to move to adjourn the meeting. But Andrew, before I do that, you can continue to you can get into speak.
Yeah, if I tried to read the agenda before coming to this so that I could speak, you know, somewhat informedly. I think if there are going to be voting items, you know, ordinarily we like to present something to vote, and I am not on the board, you know, but this is how this board has worked in previous years. This is how other subcommittees work. This is how other community boards work. like, it looks like it's behind closed doors when we decide on the same day to vote to move something to big board, you know? So usually there's a resting period. Am I incorrect in thinking that, especially because it gives us more time to collect our thoughts? Somebody want to step in and tell me if that's bad form?
Well, wait a minute. I'm not clear that what we voted on was to take any particular issue, send an issue to the board. Right?
So what was the vote for?
Weren't we
This
just?
previous,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ethan.
yeah, this previous vote was to get data from DOT and the relevant officials over on City Bike for just location usage over the past 12 months. This is an
And the bus
information
vote.
request.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bus vote was that was a vote to
For us to
essentially-
obtain data that would be discussed within the committee. We weren't sending
Nothing is going to big board.
I didn't
yet, no.
realize we voted on sending anything to the board. You're right in what you said about how it would normally be done if we were indeed sending something to the board for approval. But no, we're working on things that are still at the committee level.
Yeah.
Thank you, and it's clearly on the agenda.
Yeah. These are agenda items at the committee level that we have to vote on and how we're going to resolve them before we elevate them to the board.
The agenda, no, I'm sorry. The agenda item says city bike locations. It doesn't say city bike locations dash, consider new or locations to be removed, consider coordination with DOT. It's not specific enough that like I or some other like somewhat informed citizen off the street is gonna have any idea what that means in a meeting.
Many of the previous agendas simply just had old business and new business.
Right.
Yes, and we were very
sub
successful
points.
in old agendas.
Can you repeat that?
And we've been very successful previously. Is that what, like, I don't know.
Can you
I
give
want
more
this.
details on that?
No, I'm being a little sarcastic. I'm saying like
Okay.
there wasn't enough.
Sunday.
I know. I'm sorry. It's very late, but I want this to work better, and I see the aspiration for it,
Not okay.
and I want to be. No.
I appreciate that, Andrew. It's good to point that out.
No, like the Brooklyn bus network redesign, I like wholly thought that we were going to have DOT here to discuss the bus network redesign, for example. Like I just didn't have enough. I didn't know that we were going to be.
It's the first meeting. They wouldn't have been here tonight. I never expected them to be here
Yeah,
tonight.
they wouldn't be here tonight.
The way that they show up, if you've been coming to the meetings in the past, is we vote in committee who we invite to a meeting, which is what we did tonight.
Yeah.
Right. So the first step for us is, from what I understand, usually to outline a problem, outline our stance on the problem, and either get information from officials or send proposals for what could be a better way to do things to big board, so they can then get them out. I'm trying to help us get that done more quickly.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that we don't just sit here and have agencies learn to go around us because we're so slow.
Okay.
That's my main goal here, primarily. But this has been a pretty packed meeting. A lot of new issues, a couple of old issues that brought some debate out, which is always good to see. But at this point, it would be, I think everyone here is kind of on the edge of trying to adjourn. So I appreciate your comments, Andrew, but I am going to move to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I third it.
All right. Do we have any objections, unanimous consent on this? Nope. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Have a great night, folks, and I will see you
Good
soon.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Great meeting.
Thanks.